Trish L. Gleason, Assistant City Clerk, you are hereby directed to call a special session of the City Council to be held on Tuesday, April 9th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. in the historic Federal Building for the purpose of receiving presentations on certain fiscal year 2027 department budgets.
Good evening and welcome to a special session of the Dubuque City Council for April 9th, 2026. As a reminder to our participants, you can provide in-person input or virtual audio and written input during tonight's budget presentations. Input options during the live meeting include in-person attendees may approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any public input for the presentation you would like to speak to. Remote attendees can log into GoToMeeting using the login links, phone numbers, and access code that appears on the broadcast and live stream and posted on the front page of the meeting agenda. This option includes audio input and written chat input. If you are participating via computer, indicate which presentation you would like to speak to in the chat function or note that you would like to speak during the appropriate section. If you are participating via phone, indicate which presentation you would like to speak to during the appropriate section. All comments, whether in person or virtual, must be accompanied by a name and address. Additionally, written public input is accepted by contacting the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/councilcontacts and through the City Clerk's office email at ctyclerk@cityofdubuque.org. Attendance at tonight's meeting is as follows. Mayor Kavanaugh.
Here.
Council members Leindecker.
Here.
Resnick.
Here.
Roussel.
Here.
Sprank.
Here.
Staver.
Here.
Wethel.
Here.
City Manager Van Milligan.
Here.
Turn it back to you,
All
Mayor.
right, thank you very much, Trish. Well, welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. Before we move on to our very first presentation this evening, I want to go through a kind of a process update on some thoughts that I had after the first meeting that we had Tuesday night on these. I think it would be helpful, if possible, whenever possible, if there's anything that we want to try and hold back or for separate discussion or further discussion on budget items, let's try to do that during the public hearing of that department. So if it's going to be, for instance, for housing and community development, if you have something in mind already when you walk in the door tonight, you have some ideas of things that you might want to hold for separate discussion, let's do that during the public hearings as we go through those presentations. I think it'll be it'll be easier with staff right there to answer those questions right away. I realized that we weren't really clear on that. I don't really want to hold all those things until the very end for that last action item at the end of the night. We can talk about, I think the purpose for that action item at the end of the night is to actually talk about all the things that we're holding and make sure that we're reminding ourselves what's there and then have further discussion about those things that have been held for separate discussion. Am I making sense as I'm talking about this? Okay. So if you have something in mind and you want to hold it for that separate discussion and evaluation, we can do that during the department budgets presentations. If you think of it later and you didn't think of it at a time, then fine. Bring it up during that action item or at a later public hearing or whatever it might be. So, okay, that was more of a process thing for us up here. So, Maddie, I'll turn it over to you for the Housing and Community Development budget presentation. And welcome to your first Housing and Community Development budget presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Maddie Haverland, Director of the Housing and Community Development Department, and my team and I are excited to tell you about what we have been up to in fiscal year 26 and what we have planned for fiscal year 27. Our mission is to work in partnership to leverage local, state, and federal funds to create a more viable community by providing safe, affordable housing while expanding economic opportunities for all residents. Our department has 39 full-time employees, which is an increase of 3 over fiscal year 26. The additional positions are primarily grant-funded. This organization chart also looks different than it has in years past, as our department is in the midst of finalizing a reorg that primarily impacts the Community Development Division. In partnership with Human Resources and the City Manager's Office, the Housing and Community Development Department completed a comprehensive organizational review effective February 1st, 2026. This reorganization was a collaborative effort involving department staff, Sandy Fowler, who was our interim director from June to February, and Kristen Dietz, the talent acquisition manager in human resources. So through a series of meetings and staff engagements, workflows, service demands, and compliance requirements were evaluated to improve efficiency, strengthen oversight of federally funded programs, and ensure appropriate staff support. As a part of this process, several positions were reclassified to better align titles, responsibilities, and compensation with the current scope and complexity of the work. Many roles have evolved over time, particularly in relation to federal compliance, warranting updated classifications and pay grades consistent with market conditions and internal equity. The restructuring centralizes core functions, better aligns staff with service demands, and distributes workload more evenly to reduce burnout and improve service reliability. The timing of it aligned with the department's 2025 leadership transition, providing an opportunity to do a comprehensive review and implement a structure that supports long-term efficiency, compliance, and stability. Most importantly, these changes are largely supported through federal HUD grants, including the Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, lead paint, healthy homes, and older adults modification grant funds, resulting in a minimal general fund increase in fiscal year 2027. Overall, this reorganization strengthens the department's ability to operate efficiently, maintain compliance, and meet the community's housing and development needs. And the reorg wasn't the only change that we had this year. We celebrated Jeff Zazada's retirement this year after his 38 years of service. We also welcomed Sandy Fowler as our interim director last June, July, through the first week of February 2026. We were really grateful for the time that she spent with us and her steady leadership. We also welcomed 6 new staff members throughout all of our divisions and celebrated 2 internal promotions. I also want to acknowledge the support that we received from our colleagues in other departments. So Corey stepped in to provide leadership and stability before Sandy came to us. Mary Rose Corrigan with Health has led biweekly meetings and provided leadership to our community development staff through staff transitions and trying to run concurrent grants. Human resources and budget have been huge players in getting our reorg through the finish line, and I personally have been welcomed, assisted by, or mentored by nearly all other department managers since coming into my role in February. This year, we were able to implement a new software called CitizenServe with expansive data capabilities. We issued certificates of occupancy for over 300 new housing units and completed the transition to a 2-year rental inspection cycle. We also increased the Housing Choice Voucher budget utilization. We successfully closed out 5 grants and started up 3 more, all while going through a division restructure and a leadership transition. As we look ahead to fiscal year 27 and being fully staffed, we look forward to creating a departmental strategic plan that takes a comprehensive look at our services, funding sources, resources, partnering agencies and departments, and community needs to understand where and how our department can maximize our impact. We'll continue to focus on centralizing and streamlining divisional tasks to provide better customer service, and we'll remain agile and always prepared to adapt to the changing legislature that impacts our funding and programming. We'll work in cross-functional teams to implement common language and processes for enforcement. And finally, with the data capabilities of CitizenServe, we look forward to adapting our approach to report not only on outputs, but on the outcomes of our work. Our net property tax support for fiscal year 2027 is $644,215, which is $9.94 for the average homeowner in property tax support. We have 3 recommended improvement packages for fiscal year 27. The first is for $42,500 for building demolition. The city acquires properties through petition for the title of abandoned properties. Many of them have such deferred maintenance that the structure is unsafe or unsalvageable. This budget allows us to demolish these properties, which ultimately makes the neighborhood safer, healthier, and more stable without the attractive nuisance. The second improvement package is a recurring expense for $1,300 to access the International Code Council Premium Complete subscription, which is essentially a library of all ICC code books, guides, interpretations, and standards. It also has the capability of printing code sections to share with citizens, which can be very helpful. And our final improvement package is a non-recurring expense of $9,500 to cover the cost difference between a Ford Fusion and a four-wheel drive SUV for a fleet vehicle recommended for replacement for a building inspector. These inspectors are commonly driving on unimproved terrain in all sorts of weather, and a little sedan doesn't cut it at some times. So to share with you a little more about what keeps these inspectors busy in their SUVs, I'm going to turn it over to our Chief Building Official, Michael Belmont.
Thank you, Maddie. Mike Belmont, Chief Building Official, Housing and Community Development Department. Let's start by talking about housing. As you are all aware, a recent housing study identified a significant need for housing across all segments in our community. The study projected a demand for between 2,000 and 2,500 new units by 2035, which is coming up fairly quickly. Importantly, the need spans all different kinds of housing types: rental, ownership, workforce, market rate, large and small. This need reflects the diversity of our residents and workforce. I'm happy to say that the Council's ongoing efforts have played a key role in helping to spark and support this effort. Through strategic policies and targeted incentives, we are seeing meaningful progress towards addressing these needs. On the following slides, I'm going to highlight projects at various stages in the development pipeline. Some are completed and actively leasing. Some are nearing completion or currently under construction. Some are proposed and working through the process. If all of these projects are realized, they account for less than half of the projected need. So there's still some work to be done. For each project, I've included the total number of units, the level of private investment, and if a development agreement is part of the project. All right. The first project is 2000 Radford Road, Emery Apartments. This is a 50-unit low-income housing tax credit project. It was completed in November of 2025 and is currently actively leasing. As you can see on the slide right now, they're 64% leased. It does take a little longer to lease in these projects because they have to do income qualification. There's a process that they have to go through. But still, 64% in 4 months, pretty good rate. Union at the Marina, next one. Union at the Marina is a workforce housing development project with 201 total units. Residents must income qualify to be eligible to rent these units. There's a mixture of 50, 60, and 70% AMI units in the project. The majority of them are 60% AMI. First building is currently leasing, and the second building is scheduled to begin leasing in June of 2026. Fox Hills. This is a project we've all been talking about, hearing about for a long time, but happy to say that it's currently very actively under construction. Overall, the project will have 390 units in 13 buildings. The first phase consisting of 210 units with a $50.4 million investment. The second phase is an additional 150 units, $43.3 million investment. This project did receive $1 million in workforce housing incentive from the Iowa Finance Authority for the first 90 units. But that's a big lever, right? $1 million incentive. This project represents close to a $93 million private investment for housing in our community. The landings on Cedar Cross Road, talking about how we need all different types of units. These are market rate. This is a 180-unit project, the total investment of $23.4 million. One 30-unit building is complete and already fully rented. The second building is nearing completion, and they've had a tremendous amount of interest in leasing that up. So they're very positive about the remaining buildings and anticipate just continuing with construction as they move forward, as they get completed. There are foundations in the ground for 2 additional buildings, and then they'll continue with those. Next project up is kind of right around the corner. This is a really exciting one, 5th and Main here. This is a mixed-use project, which in this case means commercial on the ground floor with 102 rental units above. The private investment in this project is about $24 million, around $24 million. This project did receive a $1.5 million Grayfield redevelopment tax credit as kind of an incentive to get that moving. All right. Next project is another project that we've seen before, right at the gateway to the city. This is on the former Bridge restaurant site. This is one of those that's still in development. They're trying to work out the details and make it work. We've seen this project before, but I do want to point out that this rendering looks a little different. It's because as they develop it, they realize maybe there's some different needs, and it's evolved to, the rooftop amenity has evolved and expanded to be a proposed event space. Lastly, on the slide here, we have 3 other projects that all received Grayfield redevelopment tax credits. What you're looking at here is projects that have really leveraged tax credits to create a pretty robust private investment. All right, moving on. The Inspection and Construction Services divisions of the Housing and Community Development Department has a few distinct functions, as many of you are aware. In a moment, Ben Potoff, Deputy Code Official, will come up to discuss property maintenance, code compliance, and rental licensing. But first, in the next few slides, I'm going to discuss a major function of ICS, and that is construction, permitting, and inspections. Projects. We have a lot of projects going on right now, but it's an exciting time. Along with a significant number of housing developments we have going on, there's many other projects to talk about. Wanderwood Gardens is well underway with a projected opening date in June of 2026. Tapestry Hotel at the Q Casino is open for business with a few final details to finish up their rooftop restaurant, scheduled to open sometime in May. The amphitheater project is wrapping up their construction with the first concert scheduled on July 4th. The Dubuque Museum of Art is currently putting footings in right across the street for their new campus. Many of these projects will draw visitors from all over, which is great for our local economy, right? These types of projects represent hotel stays, restaurant stays, spending in our community. Also, they're attractive amenities for businesses who are looking to relocate here. Another great project that is currently under construction is the University of Dubuque John and Alice Butler College of Osteopathic Medicine. That project will transform a underutilized downtown building into a state-of-the-art learning facility, which is going to draw students from all over. All right. Housing doesn't just mean big multifamily projects. It also means single-family homes. We had a really strong year when it comes to new single-family housing starts in calendar year 2025. We saw an additional 9 new single-family homes with a slightly lower average per unit cost, which, you know, we're some of the smaller footprints, I think, are driving that. All right, when we look at single-family home in the surrounding area, our growth was outpaced only by Grant County and Dyersville. In calendar year 2025, again, I'm going back a slide, sorry. As you can see in this slide, several surrounding communities saw a fewer number of housing starts. So it's good for us. With the uptake in new housing starts, it's important to note that we still have available lots. We have infill lots. We have subdivisions with available lots. Building permits. Sorry if I sound like I'm rushing. We have a limited time, so we're trying to power through this. Permits. We continue to see strong growth in our community from a construction perspective. FY25 outpaced the 5-year average and eclipsed FY24 by approximately 400 permits. New permitting and inspection software launched in December. This is the rental licensing launched last year, but the construction permitting and inspection software launched in December. Is doing what we expected it to do by increasing the usability, availability, and transparency of our permit processes. In an effort for continual improvement, we continue to engage with contractors to hear their feedback and improve the system, which we're doing constantly. That's one benefit of the system, is we can constantly improve it. As we wrap up FY26, we anticipate continued growth and anticipate ending the fiscal year issuing 5,334 permits, construction-related permits. With that, as promised, I'll bring up Ben Potoff to talk about the next part.
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Ben Potoff. I am the Deputy Code Official for our Inspection and Construction Services Division. Tonight, I'll be talking to you, in addition to the building permitting and development services that Mike discussed. Our team provides routine rental inspections, rental education programming, reactive and proactive property maintenance and nuisance code enforcement, and building incident response. We also facilitate the city's internal working group, which is in place to address community safety and code enforcement needs across the organization and the community. I touched just very briefly on internal working group. What that actually is a cross-functional team comprised of over 40 representatives from 10 departments shown on the screen. This team works to coordinate and share information that frontline staff, including those tasked with code enforcement, can use. Through this information sharing, we ensure the team is aware of the community resources and is making referrals when appropriate. The internal working group team works closely with the Dubuque Police Department's critical incident team, especially when we're working with folks in crisis in our community. Some common examples of our code enforcement activities include garbage, nuisance complaints, tall grass and weeds, and general property maintenance complaints. In addition, one of the lesser known things our team does is to follow up on building related incidents, such as when a building is struck by a vehicle or after a structure fire, and even before and after extreme weather events, our team gets involved with those. We follow up to ensure affected buildings are made safe in the short and long term, and we are a point of contact for our residents and building owners or managers, and we assist them in navigating their options for restoration or removal of hazards post-incidents. Our rental licensing and inspection is another core business function we manage in ICS. And as you may recall, in 2025, we launched that Citizen Serve software. We've mentioned that several times. We're very proud of that. It's going very well. And in coordination with that, we were able to launch our 2-year licensing and inspection cycle. So far, that change has been very successful with very few challenges that we haven't been able to overcome. As you can see on the slide, we currently license over 12,000 rental units in approximately 3,600 buildings. And in 2025, the first year of this new licensing and inspections program, we were able to inspect nearly 5,000 units. Additionally, we comfortably met our target of being 90% self-supporting through the fees we generate in that activity. And one condition that I always like to highlight of obtaining a rental license in Dubuque is that the property owner or their agent has to attend our successful rental property management class. That program is hosted by our housing department, myself, in partnership with NICC. And as you might imagine, participants often show up to that class, a full day course, and they're reluctant to be there, usually not real smiley when they come in the mornings. But almost universally, when they leave, they give the training great marks. They find the information to be valuable and relevant to their business. And to date, we've had nearly 2,400 people attend some iteration of that training, including 105 in 2025. And lastly, in addition to our rental licensing program, we also license and inspect vacant buildings. The intent of the licensing program for vacant buildings is to ensure minimum safety and preservation standards are being met, regardless of the occupancy of the structure. And that ensures that vacant buildings do not become a blight on the neighborhood. We inspect these properties at least 4 times a year, including 1 complete interior inspection and then 3 exterior inspections, checking for the security and safety of the property. When a property owner fails to license a vacant building, it's also an indicator that it's been abandoned by that property owner. And that usually leads us into our petition for title process. In this slide, the image shown here actually shows 2 buildings we've acquired through that petition for title process. They happen to be side by side, so it makes for a good photo for this slide. The one on the left, we were able to intervene before it was so structurally deficient that it would have to be taken down. We'll actually be able to restore or rehab that property. I think it will be touched on in some of the later slides that Mary Bridget will talk about. The one on the right, unfortunately, does have some fairly severe structural issues. We anticipate that that one likely will come for a demolition, but that's to be determined yet. And let's see. Ideally, through that proactive licensing and enforcement on these vacant properties, it allows us to prevent that type of degradation from happening. And it hasn't always been that we were able to be proactive in that regard. So I don't know if you remember, but for a while we were bringing a lot of properties in front of you for demolition, and that's not a good look for us. So we're trying to be as proactive as possible. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Gina Hodgson, Assisted Housing Supervisor, to tell you more about our primary resource for housing assistance in the community.
Thank you, Ben. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Gina Hodgson. I'm the Assisted Housing Supervisor, and I'm here tonight to talk to you about the assisted housing programs. Our HUD-funded Housing Choice Voucher and Family Self-Sufficiency programs provide safe, affordable housing while helping families build stability and self-sufficiency. We connect families to resources, prevent homelessness, support economic security, and strengthen the community, ultimately reducing stress and housing uncertainty. We support over 920 households each month with rental assistance, helping increase housing stability. This has a strong economic impact with nearly $9.8 million in annual housing payments, including $7.8 million from HUD and another $2 million from participating families. Our program success is driven by strong collaborative partnerships. We work closely with HUD as our federal funding partner, alongside participating property owners who make housing opportunities possible. Internally, coordination with our inspections division ensures housing quality and compliance. We also rely on community resource networks, housing advisory boards, and commissions for guidance and support. In addition, our nonprofit and social service partners, along with child care and family supports providers, play a critical role in helping families achieve stability and long-term success. This chart illustrates the voucher distribution. The left column reflects the number of vouchers allocated to our PHA by HUD, while the two columns on the right show actual utilization. As you can see, in FY26, we are serving fewer households on average each month. This is primarily due to higher per unit costs and an increase in port-out activity. Together, these factors explain why HAP expenditures have increased, but even as the total number of assisted households has decreased. We actively manage our budget and HUD funding to ensure effective use, while strategically issuing vouchers based on community needs and market trends. We also review our payment standards to expand housing choice. We have improved access through our online portal, and we provide ongoing education and engagement for both landlords and participants. Our Family Self-Sufficiency Program is available to all HCV participants and helps families work toward long-term independence. It supports goal setting and builds assets through an escrow savings account that participants can access after they successfully complete the program. As you can see, our participants will earn a total of about $149,400 in FY26, which also means that these participants are contributing that same amount out of pocket towards their rent increases that are a result of the work they were putting in towards achieving their goals. This year, we have had 4 participants graduate so far with an average payout of about $8,000 that they can put towards things like education expenses, purchasing a car, or a down payment on a home. Current participants can also request interim disbursements from their escrow account to pay for expenses that are directly related towards achieving their goals. Without that assistance, a financial burden of buying books for school or making a costly vehicle repair could cascade into a series of setbacks. This year, we've dispersed about $14,000 to help participants stay on track towards self-sufficiency through interim escrow disbursements. We are very fortunate in the city to have developers who effectively use available resources to create affordable housing, including the 9% and 4% low income tax credit, which is also called Section 42 housing, which is monitored at the state level. We've been hearing more about that, especially with the new developments coming online that Mike Belmont just told us about. This is a list of the housing developments in the city in which some or all of the units have income eligibility and maximum rent requirements, or, like Ecumenical Tower and Sheridan Village, have their own subsidy contract with HUD. Now I'll invite Mary Bridget to walk you through our community development programs.
Thanks, Gina. My name is Mary Bridget Korkendeutsch, and I'm the Community Development Grants Monitor, and I'm here tonight to talk about our community development programs. Our community development programs administer multiple funding streams to create and preserve affordable housing, eliminate home health and safety hazards, increase access to affordable housing, and invest in our community's public facilities. We utilize these funding streams to do this work. That includes Community Development Block Grant, also known as CDBG, Lead and Healthy Homes Grant, Healthy Homes Production Grant, Aging in Place Grant, Local Housing Trust Fund Partnership, and Housing TIF. The first project we want to highlight tonight is the FY26 CDBG project with Crescent Community Health Center for the acquisition of a mobile dental unit. Crescent has leveraged over $234,000, and CDBG funds will be used to provide gap funding to get this project through the finish line. This project is in direct response to persistent barriers community members experience when trying to access oral health care, particularly a lack of transportation and mobility limitations, which disproportionately affect seniors and individuals with disabilities. The FY27 CDBG Annual Action Plan includes our entitlement allocation of $1,044,630. This is our actual allocation that we just received last week. The program income consists of just over $194,000. This mostly comes from our loan repayments, from our rehab loans or our first-time homebuyer loans. And any of these program income funds go directly back into our programs. So that brings the total allocation to just around $1.2 million. Some of the featured activities are homeowner and rehab and rental rehab, and our lead grant match and our healthy homes grant match. Some of these programs we'll hear about in the next couple of slides as well. FY27, one of our CDBG partnership projects we'd like to highlight, includes a property referenced earlier by my colleague Ben. So this is 1276 Jackson. That was a property that we acquired through petition, and it is currently going through our purchase, rehab, and resale. Which means, if you look at phase 1 that was completed in FY26, we removed rubbish, garbage, nuisance vegetation from the site, and we contracted with Hart to do that. That's a student with the Hart program, all dressed in his gear, ready for work. If you look at phase 2, it has a projected completion of FY26, and that means to gut the interior to studs and subfloors and finalize the floor plan and design. And then lastly, phase 3 will start in FY27, and that will be to complete the interior rehab and some job training requirements. Next, we're going to look at the HUD hazard reduction grants. So these grants were referenced before because we leverage CDBG funds as match for these grants, which allows the city to turn thousands of match dollars into millions of dollars through these grants. So between these 3 grants, it's an $8.5 million investment in affordable housing preservation from 2025 to 2029. The first grant that we're talking about here is on the left side there, Lead and Healthy Homes, which is a $5.1 million grant with a goal of making 90 housing units lead safe. The target housing is housing built before 1978 and housing with children under the age of 6. Properties can be rental or owner occupied, and the goal is to reduce lead-based paint hazards and provide healthy homes interventions. We also partner with the VNA for home advocate services with this grant. The next grant is a Healthy Homes Production Grant, which is $2 million with the goal of addressing health hazards in 95 housing units. So those health hazards include radon testing, mitigation, water intrusion, trip fall hazards, and 26 other health risks. It's not limited to 1978 pre-housing. It's not limited to that. And again, in partnership with VNA and Home Advocate Services. And then lastly, we have the Aging in Place Grant, which is for $1.4 million and has a goal of providing home modifications in 180 units. Some examples of those home modifications can include grab bars, trip hazards, sensor lighting, tub cutouts, and that partnership is with Unified Therapy and Four Mountains. Here we highlight our homeowner rehab program, where we can provide loans up to $40,000 in assistance at 0% interest, and these are low payment loans to assist with code violations, accessibility, and general repair and rehab. And you can see on tonight's slide, there's a note from a 2026 Accessibility Program participant that says, "Thank you so, so very much. I don't have to use my ice vest now, and it's not loud in here anymore. I don't have to have a power cord on my bed anymore." And that's just to name a little bit of what your help did. Thank you guys so much. So you can see that there's stories like this that we're able to provide through our loan program that really illustrate the real life-changing impact that these programs can have for our residents. And then lastly, we want to highlight our rehab partnership with Heart. So you can see here photos of 1821 Garfield and 514 Angela. Hopefully some of you had a chance to tour the Garfield home, which was just an incredible turnaround and reinvestment in that neighborhood. The partnership between the City of Dubuque and Heart is truly that, a partnership. The city provides homes for rehab and repair, and Heart uses these properties as hands-on learning opportunities for students. The finished result is a beautifully rehabbed home that revitalizes the neighborhood, while Heart students themselves also seem to grow and become revitalized as well. So students can earn credits through NICC and Dubuque Community Schools, have a partnership with the Carpenters Union. Youth and adults can earn a stipend with the match from DePaco. And as Becky Bodish, the Heart Program Manager, states, the greatest benefit students gain from Heart is finding purpose, achieving success, and being surrounded by adults who are sincerely invested in their future. So this is an incredible partnership that we're very proud to be a part of and look forward to continuing. With that, I will turn it back to our director, Maddie.
All right, I just want to thank Mary, Bridget, Ben, Mike, and Gina for their incredible leadership in our department and showing true teamwork over the last year and especially over the last couple of months. So to wrap up, our capital improvement projects are primarily grant production related, which contributes to the preservation of affordable housing, stabilizing neighborhoods, and keeping our residents in their homes. We also have $30,000 to assist businesses located in the downtown TIF area with accessibility improvements. While the need for new housing units in our community is well studied and documented, our department is committed to playing an active role in preserving affordable housing stock in our existing neighborhoods. Our home improvement and access CIPs are focused on just this, ensuring that our historic workforce housing is not overlooked or forgotten, and that our residents that live in these homes can make necessary repairs when needed without becoming cost burdened. Partnerships are key to the success of this with organizations such as Heart and ANI, as well as with our contractors, rental property owners, tenants, and homeowners. We also provide resources to reduce barriers to entry for homeownership. Through these programs, we've invested over $9.5 million into affordable housing in Dubuque over the last 5 years. We have several boards and commissions upon which membership is a volunteer position. We are so grateful to and proud to acknowledge the community members who volunteer to serve on our boards and commissions. These are the voices that help shape our programs. And finally, I want to thank our entire team who shows up every day ready to do their best to serve the community. Every day brings new opportunities and challenges, and I've had the privilege to witness this team in action. Even as a new director, I know how fortunate I am to be working with and for such a committed group of public servants. Thank you for your time this evening, and we are happy to field any questions you may have for us.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Maddie and Mike and Ben and Gina and Mary Bridget. Thanks for your presentation. Well, we're going to go to public input first. So this is the moment where if you have any public input on the budget specifically for the Housing and Community Development Department, now would be the time to come on up and share that with us. So I invite anyone who might have public input here. Not seeing anybody here. Anybody virtually? Okay. Anything from you? All right. All right, so not seeing any public input for this, so we'll just come back to us for discussion. I think I'm going to kick us off, actually. Maddie, I think this is probably going to be a question for you. So, first of all, thank you again for the presentation. One of the things that I always notice in this department is your property tax asking is actually very low compared to a lot of other departments. Can you describe that for us a little bit? There is a page I know in the policy book or the budget book that we have that kind of highlights this. It's page 14, kind of talks about the different sources of funding. But I was just curious if you could talk a little bit more about, you do a lot. I mean, you just shared a whole bunch with us in a short period of time, which we appreciate. But you're not asking for much in the property tax realm. So how do you pay for it? Like, how do we pay for all that?
Thank you for your question, and I will do my best to answer these questions as well as I can, having been here for 2 months and still learning a lot myself. A lot of our programs, when we look at those 3 divisions that we're breaking down into, which are assisted housing, inspection and construction services, and community development, when we look at assisted housing, that's primarily paid for by the HUD grant that we receive for the Housing Choice Voucher. We will always probably have to ask for a little bit of general fund support for that program because the way that HUD allocates their admin expenses is never set to cover 100% of what your expenses will be. So as long as we have that program, we will always likely be asking for a small amount of support to get us to be able to function fully with that program. When we look at community development, we have our CDBG programs, our grant programs that Mary Bridget walked through. Those also are primarily grant funded. We do, out of that division, also do some work with city-owned properties, purchase of services grants, urban revitalization, some programs that are truly run city-based and not eligible to be paid for by HUD funding. And so we do have some funding that comes from the general fund to cover those activities when our staff are working on them. And we job cost that and track it very closely so that we're not charging erroneously to the funding source if we don't need to. And then our final is inspection and construction services. And our goal through that division is to be revenue neutral. So when we look at fee structures and permitting, we try to ensure that whatever we're collecting offsets the expenses that we have for that activity. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, in great detail. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right, open it up. Mr. Londeck.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, this question might be for Jennifer Larson. Sorry, not Jennifer Larson. Apologize. I don't know who this question's for, actually. So let me just ask it, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Question is, on page 27, and it's referenced in multiple items within the budget here, but there's comments about payments to other agencies when, and just curious, what are those? Who are the other agencies that the respective departments are paying?
Councilmember Leyendecker, are you talking about the, under fiscal year 27, it will be $128,000?
Yeah, there's like page 27.
Page 27.
There's an example of one on there.
Okay, yep, I see that there are a couple. So the one under, that's the $128,000 that I referenced, that payment to other agencies is our contracted services that with the partners that we work with in the community. So for example, last year it was, I believe we had partnerships with Four Mounds,
Mary Bridget's coming to your.
KCAP was.
She's coming to help if you want.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, she knows. Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, I can speak on that. So the partnerships that we have through our contracted services are with HACAP, HART, and CSEI, which is Community Solutions of Eastern Iowa.
And then under some of the other funds, you'll see the one that's under Fund 168 for older adult home mods. That's our partnership with Unified Therapy Services. So we contract with them to provide the occupational therapist services that are required for that grant to do the home assessments.
Is there a separate breakdown of those listed in the documentation?
If you didn't hear, Jennifer said there should be under significant line items.
Ah, okay.
Jennifer Larson, Chief Financial Officer. If you look on page 10, number 11, it breaks out what all the payments to other agencies are.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Mayor, if you wouldn't mind, Mary Bridget, could you come back up and say what do those three organizations do? And if you remember how much we pay each one of them? It is on this list, but.
Sure, I think I have it. The first one I referenced is HACAP, Hawkeye Area Action Agency, and that is for $70,000, and that goes to support the VITA program here in Dubuque. The Community Solutions of Eastern Iowa is CSEI, and I believe that dollar amount is 48,000. Okay, it's a good quiz for me. And that is, Community Solution of Eastern Iowa is part of ECIA, and we partner with them, our contracted services for the Housing Helpline phone number that is managed through CSEI. And then the last one is for HEART, our Four Mounds, and that is a partnership that I spoke on before with Becky Bodish and running that HEART program with those students.
Could you go back to the HACAP one, and what do they support?
Yeah, so it's our VITA program here in Dubuque, I believe, is the biggest part of what we support there, and that is for the support with the tax fund. Thank you. Yes, the tax funds program that they support here and run in Dubuque.
So where they do people's income taxes for them?
Yes.
Low-income people? Okay.
You good? All right. Yep. Others? Yeah, Mr. Sprank, go ahead.
Maddie, question about the older adult home modification program. Going through the budget, I see that there is a bit of cut from the years prior to this year. I'm guessing just we're not getting, I know we were trying very hard to get the word out, we're just not getting people to sign up for it. Is that kind of what's going on?
That is not what happened here. What happened actually was, I think in previous years, we were putting too much budget in. So we weren't breaking it down appropriately based on the span of the grant. And so we had too much funding basically per line item for that grant. So it's not actually a reduction, we're right-sizing the budget.
Appreciate that. And then follow-up question, does it seem like, I know I'm telling everyone in my neighborhood that I think would qualify for it, but it is income qualified. Is there an option that we could, if we don't seem to be hitting that number, like we could open it up to folks that make just a little bit over the income qualifications, or is that not an option at all?
It's not optional with the grant funds that we have. They're restricted to under 80% area median income.
Gotcha. All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Resnick?
Just to clarify too, now, if you're not, if you don't qualify, you can still do it and pay the full freight. I mean, is what I understand. The HEART program will participate with you, but the cost represents everything that goes into it. They don't get a special price. Is that, do I have that correct? If somebody wants to do aging in place at their home, such as if I wanted to do that, they could do it, but they would charge me 40% more. But they like to keep their folks busy. But the grant program helps with those people who income qualify. But I do believe anybody who would like to do that at their home, they can still call the HEART program, and maybe not housing, but call the HEART program, and those folks would love to at least talk to you to see if they have the people, because they do like to have their people learn things and be active.
Yes, I agree that they do love to have their students active, and thank you for sharing that information. If someone does contact HEART or Four Mounds directly about that, they do not come through our door. So I wasn't aware of that. Thank you.
All right. Other side. Ms. Wethel?
Mine, I think, are just more of a general question. I think for Ben, this would probably be the most appropriate question for you. In the past, we have, since I've been on council, had, as you mentioned, properties come before us for demolition that were honestly tragic. And we want to avoid that at all costs. And so I'm curious, based on, this is outside of our budget a little bit, but a good time to review. Are there resources that council could reinforce in the coming year or two that you see as of benefit to the services to move forward quicker to avoid those types of demolitions?
In terms of specific resources, I don't know that I could identify any tonight, but it's perfect timing because it's my understanding the city manager through Maddie has asked for additional information about the properties that we're monitoring under our vacant and abandoned building licensing and potentially on that petition for title list.
Okay.
And so as we take a closer look and dive into that list, I think we'll be able to come up with some solutions that could be more preventative.
Super, thank you. The only other thing I was going to say is Mike, on slide 20, you had a great summary of some really exciting programs. I don't know where Mike is. You don't have to come up, though. I just wanted to say that up in the corner was a beautiful little other projects. And so we had some really beautiful ones that are coming our way, which I can't tell you how excited I am about it, but a lot of them are in Ward 4, and I'm so grateful for it. But up in the corner was also the landfill transfer station, which is an incredible benefit to the community. And I don't want to talk about just the beautiful ones. Nothing against the landfill. It's going to be beautiful. The transfer center is going to be beautiful. But the service that it will provide will be environmentally sound for the future of our landfill and for our residents. The other is, in the other upper corner, was a dialysis center. And so those sorts of things really impact people's lives day to day in important ways. So I couldn't be more excited about the art museum and the medical school, but I don't want to forget those kind of important construction projects too. Thank you.
Ms. Russell?
Thank you. One thing I noticed on page 19 of the report is a trend that more landlords are accepting our housing choice vouchers, going from 238 up to 285. And I wondered, Maddie, if you had any insights on what we are doing, or whoever that might be, to encourage those landlords to accept the housing choice vouchers.
That's a great question. We don't have any incentives or anything like that we've been doing. I will say that something that could be contributing to it is the new developments that are coming online. If they are funded through, say, low-income housing tax credit, think Emory, Union at the Marina. These are projects that are income qualified based, and they all accept housing choice vouchers. And so in terms of the increase in number of landlords, I can't very well speak to that, but word of mouth, I think, helps, and all of the efforts that we put in through our inspections, rental inspections programs, to ensure that we're in there frequently anyway, which can sometimes be a barrier to participation, having those frequent inspections. Our 2-year inspection cycle now lines up exactly with the 2-year biennial inspection cycle for assisted housing. Some of those things might make it more attractive because, again, there are a lot of benefits to accepting a housing choice voucher.
Great, thank you. And so you were talking about the new units, and I think it was Mr. Belmont said there were 314 units of certificates of occupancy. And I wondered, at what point does an apartment get, or a unit get that certificate? And is that the time they are added to, like, the count for sewer and water and all of that?
I can't speak to when they get added for sewer and water, but I will say that the certificates of occupancy are issued for new construction when they have passed their final inspections. Okay. We sometimes issue a temporary certificate of occupancy if there are, oftentimes there are things that need to be completed exterior, seating, sodding, things like that, but the actual building is safe to occupy. And so in that case, we would issue a temporary certificate until everything was completed, and then we would issue a
Okay, so what it's saying is that it's ready to occupy, not that it is occupied.
That is correct, yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
That it does happen sometimes where a certificate will get issued and then for whatever reason it doesn't become occupied for a month or so. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Staver.
Mike, you can stay up here.
Of course.
I think these are for you. So you listed a whole bunch of units that are hitting the market, and a lot of them look really, really amazing. But you also mentioned a need for an additional 2,500 units. Are you saying that's on top of what you've already have in count here, or that's part of that 2,500?
That's part of that 25. And that's based on the housing study that Greater Dubuque Development
Oh, this
completed.
is the same study?
It's the same study, yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
I was just referencing that study.
Okay. Okay, so, yeah, I thought the Greater Dubuque Development Study was saying around 1,200. That's not accurate, or?
It said between 2,000 and 2,500 is what I read, yeah.
I think, so I think that was the first study, and that was only the city of Dubuque limits. Then when they did the second study in 2025, that was for the entire county, and that's where it came in, the much higher number.
Okay, so the first number was for the city of Dubuque?
Right, and at my recollection, it was 1,100 units by 2030, and then that study was 4 years ago, and then the 2025 study, which was for the entire county, I think it was like 2,500, but we can get you that information.
Okay, yeah, and if possible, I'd like to get a copy of the second study. I got a copy of the first one.
Okay.
So are you going to continue to track how long it's taken for these units to fill, to see, how, if there's still a need, and how are you going to change your approach if so? If you feel like the need is getting satisfied, and are you tracking that actively, or is you just happen to hear
Yeah,
through
I
the
think
grapevine?
Mike's going to respond to that, yeah.
Yeah, so actually, the incentive programs were recommended through the Economic Development Department, Jill Connors. So really, it's, we'll just track the number of units being created, and every about quarter, we report to the city council on the number of units. And so at any point in time during one of those quarterly reports, there could be a discussion on the numbers and, the need. And of course, we could always commission a study. The studies were done, purchased by Greater Dubuque Development Corporation, but done by ECIA, the Eastern, or anyway, the Council of Governments. So at any point in time, we could also commission one if we thought we were reaching a point where bar incentives maybe shouldn't be offered anymore.
Well, like I've said, I think before, 2035, is 10 years away, and, we're halfway there in the first year. Seems like, we could potentially be flooding the market here. And it seems like a lot of them are rental units, and I don't think the study was specifically citing rental units. So I think we should be careful about, where we're at in that. And since you cited that, there was about a 50% occupancy on one of the ones that's been available for 4 months, that doesn't seem like a, crazy demand. I would expect it to be full.
Right.
But,
Yeah, my reporting on occupancy was simply anecdotal. I mean, those are things that I was told from the developers. But,
okay.
yeah, there's no formal study for them.
So the council pleasure, if you wanted at one of the May city council meetings, we could give you that report on the numbers and give you the two studies. And I guess there could be a discussion about that very topic.
Yeah, I think figuring out a way to track occupancy would be a smart move too.
Okay.
I don't know if just by maybe, you've got a list of about 10 of the major units already. I don't know if that's possible through housing as they're doing the occupancy or issuing permits. Probably be easy that way.
Yeah, we can talk as staff about, is there a way for us to track occupancy?
Yeah, okay. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Before I jump in with just one more question, actually. Oh, please, Mr. Resnick.
Okay, thank you. So just a couple quick questions. So semi-attached housing, does that qualify as single-family housing?
When you say semi-attached, what do you mean?
We have two homes that share a wall.
It depends on if there's a property line that actually bisects the property. If there is, and they're on separate properties, they would be single family. If they're not, they're attached. They're called attached single family. That's what the census code is.
Okay, so they are different. Okay,
Yep.
and it seems that we're very grants dependent. We're happy to get so many grants to get your department, and so I looked at the names of the grants people, and thank you very much for all the work getting that. Are these competitive grants or routine, or how would you characterize these grants? Are they everybody crossing their fingers that we get a certain amount or a certain number of grants? Or are these things that are, you do the grant, you get the information, if it's done, it gets a certain amount of money, that type of thing? Is there a way to characterize those grants so I'm not worried about, how we're doing?
Yes, there is. So for Community Development Block Grant, that's the one that we have about $1.2 million total. That is an entitlement grant is what that's called. So because of our population, we're over 50,000, we are automatically given this grant. We'd still have to submit an annual plan and a report from the previous year to get that. But it's one of HUD's formula grants. You may have heard that term tossed around before. I believe that our assisted housing grant, I'm just going to get confirmation from Gina, formula. Yeah. Our assisted housing, so our housing choice vouchers, those are also formula grants. There are some, you saw the special vouchers that were up on the screen as well, like the Veteran Supportive Housing, Family Unification Program, which is a special voucher for youth that are aging out of foster care. Those are special that we need to apply for. But again, I think once you're in, you sort of just get your reallocation. The grants that Mary Bridget talked about that are our hazard reduction grants, those are competitive. And they're typically a 3 to 4 year grant cycle. Our Lead in Healthy Homes grant we've had since 1997 with very few breaks in between, which is a blessing and a curse because it means that we have so much pre-78 housing in Dubuque that we have many, many lead hazards to mitigate. So we are usually a very strong candidate for that program because we've been running for so long and have the program stability with it, as well as the housing stock to support that grant. Healthy Homes and Older Adults Homes Modification, which I wanted to mention is also called Aging in Place. We kind of use them interchangeably, so if you heard us say one or the other, it's the same thing. Those are also competitive grants through the same office of HUD as the Lead Hazard Control Grant. Those were released again shortly after COVID. So those are newer competitive grants from HUD, but there's been strong support for them through Congress. And so we do have a really great team, and we, with this reorg especially, have put a lot of systems in place to ensure compliance, and we're tracking the data we need to be able to write for those grants again. Because we've had the lead grant for such a long period of time, I think we're always a very strong applicant for that. So we're very hopeful.
Well, thank you. I know we have older housing, so the lead grant is extremely important for here. I've just been reading other places and other populations that have been losing grants. They used to support populations, and now they're not going to be. And so it sounds like, with our team, they have a strong reason that we have the need, and we're good. We use those funds in a we are very good with that, and our data is very good. So I'm confident that if anyone's going to be funded, it would be us. I just didn't know if you had heard or thought that we might be losing funding on it. We haven't been notified of any reductions.
No, the president did release his budget recently, his proposed budget, and there are some, it looks like, potential. He has consistently proposed reducing some programs, but Congress has always had very strong support for these housing programs. And so we remain hopeful and mostly certain that that will continue to be supported in that way. One thing that I do want to mention, as Councilmember Wethel had asked earlier, if there are ways that, if we're looking down the road, can be supportive. I don't know if you remember, but during the census of 2020, Congress was looking at, or the Office of Management and Budget was proposing changing entitlement city population from 50,000 to 100,000. And they vowed, after it didn't go through, that they will look at that again in 2030. And so that's kind of on our radar always, but that's just something that as you're reviewing or have advocacy opportunities, that it might be something to consider.
Right, and thank you. And that's precisely the type of thing, when we go down to Washington to talk with our partners, we absolutely emphasize, we know people, we have a nice setup, but we go visit people and advocate for that. We do that once a year. The mayor's down there all the time.
Not all the time.
Okay, well, he's there a lot, trying to keep keep that grant funding and other kind of payments that we need as a population here. So it's good to hear. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Mr. Tabor, yeah.
I had a question about, it's on page 7, number 2. It's a package that you requested that wasn't recommended. It was kind of for a full-time administrative support person. Sounds like kind of a first contact for most people. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yes, so the proposed administrative support professional would be sort of like you said, the first contact for people and know a little bit about everything that we do and be able to point people in the right direction and reduce some of the burden on our current administrative staff. If you walk into our department right now, there's 4 people at the front desk, and all 4 of them have full jobs to do, but they're on a call rotation and they're processing permits and payments and helping get our waiting list moving with the housing choice voucher. And so this person would be that first point of contact and be able to make some of those coordinations. It would also be administrative support to me as the director, because currently there is no administrative support. And with the reorg, the Mike Belmont, who was the assistant director, is now the chief building official. So it would be a two-part support for our administrative staff and for me.
Okay. All right, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, before I go, anything that anybody wants to hold for anything separate going forward at this moment, at least? I'd ask before we move on. Okay, then Maddie, my only question has to do with housing choice vouchers. I want to talk about lease ups and port outs real quick. So we in the past have had some trouble leasing up on those housing choice vouchers, meaning that we couldn't, people would have a voucher in hand and couldn't find a place to live with that voucher. Are we still in that situation, or did I hear that we're increasing housing access enough that we might be working our way out of that situation? Gina, it looks like she's ready to stand up, so she's coming to help you maybe.
I'm gonna give it my best shot, and she can come correct me if I'm not correct. So we actually have not been able to lease or release vouchers for a while because we're fully at our financial capacity to pay for vouchers. Okay. And so I don't think that we have any hard data on it because of that, but I do believe that the new units coming online, them accepting vouchers, is going to be very helpful because it just provides so many more choices for units, and they're easier to find. Did you ask about port outs already?
I have a question specific for it. So the number that you have on page 9 here, it says there's 35 that we're currently ported out. That number.
Okay, there's 50 currently that are being.
50 currently.
Yep.
Okay. Is that high for us? It is high. It's higher than previous years.
It is.
And we have zero control over this, right? The
That's correct.
federal rules require us to pay. If somebody's here and they get housing for 12 months, then they can take that voucher with them wherever they want to go in the United States, essentially.
That's
and
correct.
Then we're required to pay for that as they go there.
We may be required to pay for it,
Okay.
yes. So it's up to it depends on where they choose to port, right?
Okay.
So if I wanted to port my voucher to Kansas City back home, then I'm from Kansas City, that's why I said that.
Gotcha.
Then the cost of living in Kansas City might be higher than Dubuque. And so if I port to Kansas City and they are doing what's called absorbing vouchers, then they would just take over my payment, and the payment for me would come from Kansas City's allocation. If they're billing, then they would issue me a voucher, but they would bill back to Dubuque for the price of my rental unit now in Kansas City, which may be 2 or 3 times more expensive than the same unit or comparable unit in Dubuque. And on top of that, we're also paying an administrative fee per voucher.
For how long?
Indefinitely until they decide to absorb.
Really?
Yes.
it seems like that rule doesn't seem to make much sense. Do other cities struggle with the same type of thing?
I believe they do, and while it doesn't make sense from a number standpoint, especially as an advocate for our community, the intent of the housing choice voucher is to give exactly that, housing choice.
Yep.
And so the impact on our community is that we have less money to provide vouchers within our jurisdiction. The person who received the voucher still has housing choice, and it is a national benefit.
Sure. And I can understand that, and I appreciate it too, but I also think that the federal government should pay for it then. It seems strange that you're making local governments with very limited funds pay for this. And I know it's been going on for years and years and years, and I've probably talked about it at every other budget hearing that we've had with you guys, but it just seems like one of those, I don't know, for some reason I'm on an unfunded mandate kind of kick lately talking about these things, and that seems like one of those. But thank you for that answer. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for this presentation. We really appreciate all the great information and answers to the questions. So thank you.
Thank you. We
All right.
appreciate your support.
We will move on to the second hearing of the night, which is the planning department. So we will let that switch over take place, and we'll hear from Wally when he's ready.
IT director too, right?
Yeah. Presentation switcher.
Presentation specialist.
You probably want this higher.
It's as high as it goes. Yes.
We are ready when you are, Wally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
We're going to move around a lot, so.
I know.
Yeah.
You saw me walking around out there,
Yep.
right? Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Wally Wernmott, Planning Services Director. I'm just excited to be here to talk about the budget with our Planning Services Department. I have a great bunch of individuals that work in our office. Unfortunately, none of them are here because they are helping out Temwa at City Life right now out at our 911 center located out on the west side. And I'm so jealous because I love participating in City Life and intermingling with our residents. Our mission in the Planning Services Department is to provide friendly, knowledgeable, and professional city planning, historic preservation, and development services to ensure a viable and livable Dubuque. This is our current departmental organizational chart. We do have three major activities: that development services, city planning, and historic preservation, in which we have breakdowns with regards to different planners and zoning enforcement officers and admin that help assist each one of those activities. Our department is comprised of 8.38 full-time equivalent employees. That 0.38 is an intern that we hire annually to help assist not only with a lot of the projects that we get involved with historic preservation and city planning, but then also helps assist with enforcement in some situations. So that's our City Hall photo selfie day for our department. We always like to thank our 4 boards and commissions. We have 28 appointed volunteers. That's something that's a big thing with our office. We do work with the Zoning Board of Adjustment, our Zoning Advisory Commission, and then also our Historic Preservation Commission and Long Range Planning Advisory Commission. So I always like to say thank you. We literally cannot do the work we do without these volunteers. A lot of our boards and commissions are required by state law. Decisions are being made. If we have a zoning ordinance, we have to have a zoning board of adjustment and zoning advisory commission. We have a comprehensive plan. We have a long-range planning advisory commission. We have a historic preservation ordinance. We have a historic preservation commission. So we'd like to thank some of those members. Jonathan McCoy has decided after 12 years of the zoning board of adjustment, he's ready for retirement. So we'd like to thank Jonathan for his many years of service with the Zoning Board of Adjustment, and then Cliff Conrad, who served 3 years on our Long Range Planning Advisory Commission. Not only do we have those boards and commissions, but we do have some design review committees, specifically for some special development areas located in the Port of Dubuque and our Chaplain Schmidt Island. Those are made of city staff and then also some community partners, Greater Dubuque Development Corporation, Visitors Convention Bureau, some others, Travel Dubuque, Dubuque Main Street. There's members that make up these design review committees for these special purpose areas. So with the city planning activity in our office, we help provide support to long-range planning. We engage the community to develop partnerships and implement our Imagine Dubuque plan, which is our comprehensive plan. And then also annexation study. We have over 4,000 acres for potential growth around our community. We have 171 pre-annexation agreements that are signed that encompass 4,089 acres. They have agreed to voluntarily annex into our community at their option or the city's option whenever that decision is made. Also, they work on development and implementation and amendments to the comprehensive plan. They review and provide recommendations on new urban revitalization districts that involve tax abatements, new urban renewal districts that gets involved with tax increment financing, all the new city plans. So you have the Parks and Rec Master Plan that came through, and then like we had a Chaplain Schmidt Island Development Plan. Any master plan that is being reviewed goes through our Long Range Planning Advisory Commission for review with compliance with the Imagine Dubuque Comprehensive Plan. And then also we work on updating our existing and future land use maps and then our vacant and developable land inventory. We're going to talk a little bit about Imagine Dubuque implementation. Our office serves as the collective impact model. We are in charge of all the organization building and the activation and implementation of the plan. And we do reporting in the Achieve It software. And how we operate that, a collective impact model, is through this organization that we call connectors, coordinators, and champions. Those connectors are made up of city department managers. We have 7 major categories. Each department manager is in charge of one major category. For instance, I'm in charge of land use planning. Gus is in charge of community facilities. Corey's in charge of cultural impact and some other items in the master plan. But then we also work with our coordinators. And those coordinators could be city staff, could be community partners in our community, and then champions, once again, could be individuals, city staff, or community partners. Anyone who wants to move forward one of our goals and recommendations. And as like I mentioned, these are the categories, those 7 plan categories that are broken into 32 subcategories, and then we have the 110 recommendations that help, they've been identified and we're working towards implementing. The other activity I'd like to talk about is development services. So we work with fostering partnerships to help provide efficient, knowledgeable, and coordination of sustainable development. They provide staff to our Zoning Board of Adjustment and Zoning Advisory Commission, and then they facilitate and coordinate the development review team, which you hear me talk about quite a bit when I'm up here for the rezonings and everything else. So a couple pictures here. We have the Charlotte's Coffee House on Cedar Cross Road and the Wanderwood Gardens. That's super excited to wait for that to open to the public. This is the breakdown of our development review team. Planning and zoning, we are the facilitators, so we are the point person that gets involved with the applications, and then we work with the 5 main core members, which is engineering, water department, inspections and construction services, and fire, those blue circles. And then also economic development, parks and rec, health services, city manager, public works. They're always invited to the meetings. There are certain situations where they'll attend if there's a park involved with it. It's not mandatory attendance for them. But we're also unique in the fact that we invite private utilities as well. So we offer Alliant Energy and Black Hills Energy to attend our meetings. And we do have regular meeting from Black Hill Energy that shows up and attends our meetings as well. And then also the Greater Dubuque Development Corporation, to help be kind of that liaison that works with their development community and with the city, and just to be able to have overall conversations as we work through the process. So in fiscal year 25, we had 50 DRT cases. That's the breakdown between conceptual reviews, subdivision plats, and site plans. And we had 30 meetings that were conducted in FY25. Here's a chart that just kind of talks about approved development by the square footage, and this is just commercial, industrial, and institution. So when you look at that number there in fiscal year 2025, how can we say that number is so low when you're hearing from Mike Belmont that our building permit records are high? Well, this is probably not the best way to track approved development that goes before the development review team. So for instance, in FY23, we actually had 36 approved site plans. FY24, we had 34, and then in 25, we actually had 44. So when we think about development that's going through the development review team, we had 3 parks. There's no acreage, or I shouldn't say acreage. square footage, because there's no buildings, right? The Iowa Amphitheater, there's no acreage there, but we also have larger projects that come through, like the Key Hotel, or Simmons Development on the west end, or the University of Dubuque is an adaptive reuse of an existing building that we help track. But what we have had a lot of is residential development approvals. So here's some images. Mike Belmont went over those earlier. I'm not going to go into great detail on those. But I do give an update to you regularly about creating housing opportunities. This is actually updated as of today. We have up to 2,522 total lots or units that are either in some stage of review or approval or construction. Actually, 609 units are actually constructed already or in operation. Mike mentioned all the ones that are ready to go online with regards to the Union Marina, Fox Hills Development, Emory Apartments, and several others, Habitat for Humanity as well, with regards to that. So those are things that we track. I was listening to the previous conversation, and there was a housing study that was done by ECIA. It was 1,100 units by 2030. That's the first housing study. The second housing study that was done, it was more looked at as the county as a whole for 2,500 units. So those are things that we're definitely looking at and tracking. So at this point, I'm going to have Eric in the back. He's going to switch on a video just to kind of provide a video of the aerial flybys of some of these larger scale developments that are happening. So. Thanks, Eric. That's a great video. Our public communications office does a great job with all those, and we're looking forward to a new recent update here coming soon with regards to all the development that's happening in the city of Dubuque. Another activity going on in our development services is our Unified Development Code update. So this is a very busy slide, and just in general, we've done quite a bit of public outreach with regards to the Unified Development Code. And where we're at in the process is we're in the staff draft review portion. We have a draft that's been provided to our office. We're going through that draft, reviewing it, basically line by line. There's a lot of information that's in that with regards to it. And once that's complete, we'll provide it back to the consultants. They'll update that, and then we'll go out to the public with regards to the review of the Unified Development Code update based on all the input that we received from our community. We will be reaching out to interested parties. We have the Developers Roundtable. We have the sign community that would like to review certain things too. So a lot of individual reviews that will take place with that Unified Development Code update. We do track quite a bit of our work with our boards and commissions. So this is our Zoning Advisory Commission with our breakdown of all the cases that we've done in fiscal year 25. You'll see a series off to the left. There's a map that we geocode the locations of the cases and the type of cases that they're being reviewed before the Zoning Advisory Commission. And then also our Zoning Board of Adjustment, the number of cases that are being reviewed in our community. That table on the lower left just shows, tracking over the fiscal years, the number of total cases. We also do track the number of cases that do fall in our community development block grant eligible areas of our community as well. And then our zoning enforcement officer, Charlie Miller, is a very busy gentleman. He goes out and enforces our zoning ordinance codes. throughout our community. And in FY25, he's done 326 cases. Primarily, you'll see the bulk of his cases involved improper vehicle storage. That we have requirements for licensed and operable vehicles. They have to be on a paved pad. They can't be parked for a certain period of time, and quite a few different regulations that are associated with that. So we'll step into the historic preservation activity. Our department supports our Historic Preservation Commission with regards to helping manage the agendas and running the meetings and helping track and provide that information to the 9 Historic Preservation Commission members that we have. We conduct research on planning and preservation projects. We apply for grants. We help draft ordinances. We facilitate the Section 106 process with the state of Iowa for housing rehabilitation projects. So, you're asking Maddie with regards to all the federal funding that she receives for all the projects she gets involved with. All those have to go through a federally mandated Section 106 review, and our office helps provide that. And we're super excited that we have a programmatic agreement with the state of Iowa. We're one of the only community development block grant communities in the state of Iowa that the SHPO has allowed us to do our own in-house Section 106 review work, which cuts down on the review time process and allows us to do that in-house. We do have to send stuff on to the State Historic Preservation Office, but that saves about 30 days in that review process by having us to be able to do that in-house. We also get involved with survey and evaluation of our community. We have over 6,000 historic properties, and then there's $7 million of investment in our historic and downtown neighborhoods that were conducted in fiscal year 2025. And here's our breakdown of our historic preservation and staff cases. You can see quite a bit of the workload is associated with those Section 106 reviews, in addition to what they call a certificate of appropriateness. Those are design reviews that go before our Historic Preservation Commission. Facade grant reviews, where we work with the Economic Development Department with the funding that they use for rehabilitation of those buildings located in our downtown core. And then those demolition permit reviews, whether in historic districts or in conservation districts. We talked about historical resources. So we just completed 2 certified local government grants for our Deerville and Volker Highlands. So we did a historical research and documented those neighborhoods and provided public outreach, public meetings, and quite a bit of information, especially during Historic Preservation Month. And it was a great outreach session at the library. We had quite a few people. And it's great when you have those because you have individuals that come in and that provide you even more knowledge that you even think you knew about the property to begin with. We do track our customer service satisfaction survey. So we give out a survey after every one of our cases that we get involved with. We provide that to them, and we do get responses that come back with regards to how we're doing. So that's something we always track. We're a very friendly bunch of group, so, and we got 100% on that, right? So, but the other thing is, I always like to look at the comments, and it talks individually about how great our staff is doing, how they truly understand the process, and how we're making a difference in a lot of these residents' lives and property owners, and just how we go about helping them through the process. Because a lot of times people don't even know zoning exists, and we help them guide them through that process. Not only are we an external facing department, we are very internal. We get our fingers in everyone's business in the city. So all these departments that are located in the city of Dubuque, we provide some kind of service to them, whether it's enforcement coordination, parking studies. You just saw me here on Monday night with the Parks Department with regards to the Eagle Point Park. Just several different departments and how we help assist them in everyday activities. And a lot of times, that's where they don't have to go out and hire a consultant to do the work. They have us here. They're our experts in our field that be able to help assist them with regards to that. Some of our fiscal highlights is our historic structures report, which we just talked about on Monday night City Council, increasing housing units, that programmatic agreement with the State Historic Preservation Office. We're conducting a downtown intensive land use analysis and our historic Millwork District public open space engagement process that we're working down in the Millwork District. Future initiatives will be to continue the downtown intensive land use analysis. We'll be continuing to work on that historic Millwork District public open space. We'll always be implementing the Imagine Dubuque Comprehensive Plan. Continue to work on increasing housing units in our community, specifically not only rental, but also owner-occupied single-family housing. And the implementation of the Citizen Serve Plan Review software. We're very thankful for Mike Belmont and Ben Potoff has been leading that for the building side, and it's definitely helping us out as we use it for our plan review and site plan reviews, in addition to a lot of our board and commission review. And then one of the city council goals and priorities that you identified is to conduct an update to the downtown master plan. The other thing I just want to highlight is the Jeffers Challenge Grant that we're applying for. It's a 2-to-1 match that will be able to provide funding that we'll be fundraising for, and looking forward to receiving almost up to $2 million to do a historical rehab of the Alfred Caldwell Eagle Point Park structures in our Eagle Point Park district. So this is just a breakdown of our requested property tax support. So the Planning Services Department costs the average homeowner $5.02. When we talk about public safety, everything we do, from zoning regulations to building design standards, we have Jason Duba, who works with the Safe Routes to School and the Mobility Group with our bike and pedestrian planning. Floodplain management, I am the floodplain coordinator for the city of Dubuque, so anything that gets involved with the floodplain, I work with the Iowa DNR and FEMA on to make sure we're working through and trying to address flooding, and then zoning enforcement, and then all the development review coordination that comes along with that. So here's our recommended improvement requests. One is to just upgrade a desktop unit to a laptop upgrade for our administrative support professional. We're also looking at upgrading 2 computers to what they call an engineering computer. It just has more RAM and capability. With the update to our GIS, Geographic Information Systems, it requires a higher level of RAM for those computers, and it helps speed up those reviews for using our GIS software. We're a very public-facing department. We're in the public all the time, so we have a non-recurring request for City of Dubuque shirts similar to the one I'm wearing right now, especially with Charlie, who's out in the field a lot. We always want to be able to document and recognize people that you are talking to, a city official, and then Safe Routes to School bike gear. We do look at training and helping advance our employees in our office, so this is for our zoning enforcement officer to attend the Association of Code Enforcement Officials Conference. That's just a one-time non-recurring fee. Our National American Planning Conference, we did allow an associate planner to attend that. Leadership Dubuque training, all the staff has participated in that with the exception of one of our individuals. And then the same scenario with regards to our Dale Carnegie training with our planning tech with regards to everything we get involved with from the standpoint of interacting with the public and public speaking. Here's our fiscal year 27 capital improvement project. It is that $150,000 ask for that downtown master plan update. And our performance measures, we do track the average day of review and approvals for our boards and commissions. This is one for the Zoning Board of Adjustment and our Zoning Advisory Commission. We also talk about the total number of inspections that are conducted on properties to bring them into compliance from our zoning enforcement side. The Imagine Dubuque plan, using the Achieve It software, we track where we're at in implementing those 110 recommendations, where if they're on track, off track, at risk. That's something we do quarterly, and we do report on that to you guys specifically before you go into City Council goal setting. And then also on the historic preservation side, we do track the average review that comes before the Historic Preservation Commission from applications that come into our office, and then the number, $1 million of investment that are being invested in the historic and the downtown neighborhoods. And with that, that's all I have, unless you guys have any questions.
All right, well, thank you very much, Wally. We'll hear from any members of the public first, so if anyone has any public comment on the Planning Services Department budget, now's the chance to come on up and say so. Seeing none here. Anything virtually? Okay. All right, then back to us for any discussion with Wally. Not everybody at the same time, though. Do we have any questions? Not seeing any. Okay.
I'll just
Yep,
make
please. Yeah,
a
Ms. Ruffin.
comment. So first of all, I just think your team touches so many other departments. I want to acknowledge you for that and your work. I think that it's been recognized. Not only do we have, I think, the only department in Iowa that has been granted its own ability to approve, I'm sorry, I can't remember the...
Program agreement, section 106.
Yeah, that. So I think that your department continues to exceed expectations, and the caliber of your employees is extraordinary. So thank you to all of them. Our country has a housing shortage. Our city has a housing shortage. I work in healthcare, and we work on data and best practice. Since I started on council in April of 2022, I have been shown and heard only the fact that we have a shortage of housing. I have heard it from my patients. I have heard it from my constituents. I have heard it from employers. I have heard it from agencies that serve people that have less, that need housing. We have people that sleep on their families' couches because they cannot afford housing and they cannot find a unit that fits their needs. We have seniors who cannot find an appropriate place to live that is accessible to them for their financial needs so that they can stay in a space that is comfortable for them and accessible for them. And so I just want to be crystal clear. I want you to keep pushing. I want you to keep working and providing the excellent service that you do, because we've got a big road ahead of us, and I can't wait to keep at it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Resnick.
Briefly, Laura Karstens did such amazing work the last, 15 of the years that I've been on, and I was just wondering how that was going to translate to a new department with a new head. You're doing wonderfully, and I think that her modeling and you watching her and helping her, and then you're modeling for others, I've always been excited about the work that the planning services does. And it's amazing all you've done, and you've done some new work with the DRT and reaching out and really getting a sticky job and getting it done and getting people involved, getting their opinions, getting them serviced, getting their questions answered. So many great things, and I really appreciate your flexibility and your just. And I just see this going on in the future, the way you guys work together and your leadership. So I just wanted to thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Patel.
I just want to say thank you for your department. But what's really outstanding, I think, is the way you work with others. It's such a small department, and yet your tentacles go out to so many other departments and all these citizen boards that are so important to what we do here at this table, and all that important work that they do with your help that comes to us. So I just want to thank you for your expertise in working with others. So keep it up.
Thanks.
All right. Seeing no further comments or questions here, nothing to be held separately or anything like that. Wally, thank you very much for this. I think one of the reasons that we're probably not having many questions is because you're here all the time. I mean, we see you potentially more than many other departments, and we get a lot of answers to the questions that we do have, and you're very clear in providing all that to us on a regular basis, you and your staff. So thank you for everything you're doing, and thanks for the presentation tonight.
Yep. Thanks for everything you guys do.
Thank you. All right, we are on to number 3, Economic Development Department. So we'll get switched over here.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Jill Connors, Economic Development Director here at the city, and I'm joined by Bonnie Sperling, who is our Arts and Cultural Affairs Manager. Tonight I'll walk you through our FY27 budget, focusing on how we strengthen Dubuque's economy, housing, and tax base. Our mission is to advance economic and social health through partnerships. And you'll see some of our partners sitting here in chambers with us tonight. Everything we do ties back to jobs, housing, arts and culture, and strengthening the tax base. We operate with 4.5 FTEs covering TIF, housing, workforce, and arts. It's a lean team focused on high-impact work. This is the team doing the work daily. I'd say we're lean and mean, but we're lean and Iowa nice, I would say. Small but highly collaborative with the other, with housing and planning, for instance, who you've already heard from this evening. We work a lot with them, a lot with engineering and the other departments, as well as our community. Our work aligns directly with City Council goals. Here are the 7 that have been identified by the City Council, and you will see throughout the presentation, you'll notice the icons on the slides showing you what it connects to. In practice, we focus on the economy, housing, health and safety, connectivity, and the arts. Our role is often closing gaps so that private investment can move forward. Our request for the budget equals about $23 per household annually to support citywide economic growth and housing. I've done the math. For that household, you get all of us for 8 cents a day. You get all 5 of us. So, it's less than a coffee. Let's talk about TIF. We hear a lot about it. It's tax increment financing. Going to go through some of the basics. A lot of people know kind of how it works, but I want to talk about why it's important how it works. So here's an example of what if we do nothing. So that blue area represents the base value of a property. And if we do nothing, you can see, for instance, a couple of buildings that I selected in the historic Millwork District, which have not been redeveloped. You'll see that over the past 20 years, there's been basically stagnant property values. But what if we do something? Then we're generating increment. We're increasing the tax base. And what is that something that we do? It can be job creation and retention. It can be leveraging that private investment. It's housing development. It's downtown rehabs. It's getting rid of slum and blight. It's paying for some public improvements. So at the end of the day, who wins? It's our community. If you look at the 2 buildings listed here, I tried to identify buildings that were of similar value, kind of a modest-sized building and a larger building. These 2 buildings have been redeveloped, and the assessed value is not stagnant. It's 16 to 17-fold what it was 20 years ago. I'm going to run through the next couple really quickly here. So here's again the 4 buildings, 2 that have not been redeveloped, 2 that have. You can see the assessed value increase. You can see whether they're vacant or occupied. You can see how many jobs are associated with those buildings. You can see how many housing units are associated with those buildings. Now, building 3 is an office only, but it was a good example price-wise to compare to building 1. And the spending power that's associated with the humans who live and or work in those buildings is demonstrated here. So TIF is a key tool, and without action, those property values stagnate. With targeted investment, we see the major increase in all of those categories that we just saw. Jobs, spending power, taxable value, et cetera. Now, historically, $1 of public investment through our incentives has been leveraging $7.50 in private investment. If you look over the past, how many years is that? 30. 30 years, we've done 137 TIF projects, and for $156 million of city investment, we've seen $1.17 billion from the private side, plus jobs. In the past year alone, we've executed 15 development agreements. That's a lot. we've been very busy this past year. 15 development agreements leveraging $68 million in private investment, creating jobs, and creating over 300 new residential units in various parts of the community. We focus on key districts throughout the community, so it goes as far north, as Kerper Boulevard, down south to the Technology Park, out west in the Industrial Park, and a lot of different areas of the downtown that you'll see identified on this map. One of Council's top priorities has been the revitalization of Central Avenue. Here's just one example of some of the changes that we've seen. In the past year alone, we've executed 6 new development agreements along Central Avenue, which is creating 10 new commercial storefronts, 52 new apartments, and we've had 11 agreements total since 2022 in that corridor. The example here is what happens with the grant programs that we administer. The impact shown in this example here shows removing inappropriate coverings to showcase the intended beauty of our historic buildings. Other work that's happening related to Central Avenue is business and developer outreach. We're removing barriers for developers, one example being some modifications that we've made in our development agreements to insurance requirements. We heard from developers that what we were asking was perhaps unnecessary and a financial burden to them. We had a good discussion both with developers and internally and made that decision to modify those requirements to lower a barrier for the developers. We're coordinating improvements through some meetings, quarterly meetings that Ian Hatch, our Assistant Economic Development Director, he attends those, and he also coordinates internally with other departments related to their work along the Central Avenue corridor. And then here in the photos, some of you were able to attend this meeting back in October. Neighborhood Evolution is a consultant that we've been working with related to small-scale development. And they're helping us try to put together an ecosystem of small developers, would-be developers, getting monthly online training as well as monthly in-person meetups to share resources, knowledge, et cetera. Dubuque Main Street has been tracking downtown investment since they were instituted here in Dubuque 40 years ago. And you can see here there's been over $1.2 billion of total improvements in the downtown in that time. You can see one of the things that they do is they manage the summer farmers market, which is really quite impressive. You can go to larger cities and not see something this cool and well attended. Housing remains a top priority of the City Council, and it's critical for workforce and for growth throughout the community. This project, Union at the Marina, on the north end of town, provides right-sized housing for individuals of all ages by providing that right-sized housing, perhaps for folks who want to move out of their homes. They don't want to mow the lawn and shovel anymore, but they want to remain in their neighborhood, the Point neighborhood. Here's an opportunity for them to do that. That then can open the single-family homes for families who are looking for that option. And of course, this aligns with the City Council's housing strategy. Infrastructure is step one in economic development. We can't develop if we don't have roads, sewer, water, all of the utilities. So that's step one in a lot of what we do here. It enables the development. It's the foundation for the private investment So here are some examples of the city paving the way, pun intended, for new and future projects. I want to talk a minute about Dubuque initiatives. City staff, economic development and finance department staff are contracted to provide some staffing services for Dubuque initiatives. Dubuque Initiatives' mission is to revitalize the downtown area, mostly. They started out in the industrial park years ago, but their focus for quite a number of years has been the downtown area. Right now, in order to create some synergy, they are also focusing on the Central Avenue corridor. They're taking a block-by-block approach, mostly in the 1700 and 1800 blocks right now, as opposed to doing a smattering. They're kind of, let's all focus in one area to create some momentum. Some of the ways that they help developers is with their patient capital and some non-traditional financing. Back out to the west end that I mentioned, it's a very long story that I will keep short, which is the Bright Minds campus started as what's the solution, what does the workforce need here in Dubuque, and was boiling down to one key area of a challenge was childcare access. So Dubuque Initiatives really took the lead on pulling together this list of partners, and there were others, worked with the state of Iowa and others, to create the Bright Minds campus out at the end of Chavanel. There are 225 new childcare slots out there, and we went from having over a one-year waiting period for an infant slot to not having a waiting list for infant slots in Dubuque. And we've been held up as a state and a national model. I was invited to Salt Lake City a few months ago by the National League of Cities to talk about how we partnered with all these different entities to take care of our childcare issue here. It was very well attended, and people clapped when they heard that we didn't have a waiting list anymore for infant care. Opportunity Dubuque is another workforce program. It's funded in part through funds from our department, and it's run by NICC. They have certificate programs in a variety of different fields. There have been nearly 5,000 learners enrolled in the program over the past 15 years. You can see a cohort here of their CNA program. 92% of their contacted graduates either are employed or are continuing their education. So this really is workforce that works. We rely on strong partnerships to deliver workforce outcomes, and you can see our partners there. We've spent years trying to build out the network, again with partnerships with the private sector, to get the broadband expanded across the community. And now what we're doing is leveraging this network that's in place. You can see some current efforts here. The Bright Minds facility that you saw a couple of slides ago includes a data center here. We've got the streets program, which you probably heard about from the engineers a couple of nights ago. We've got precision policing support and the Southwest Arterial Fiber Link, completing a redundant superloop in the community, which is possible thanks to having this network built out. When you think about safety and how does economic development impact safety? Well, studies show that density and activity improve safety. So economic development contributes directly, such as through our downtown redevelopment grants and TIF incentives. You can see here the Mary Millwork Market at Christmas time and all of the activity that's happening there. It's nighttime. There's not a problem. It's safe. You can be downtown. These partners extend our capacity and deliver key services efficiently. You'll notice there are no increases this year, only a decrease for Travel Dubuque, and that's based on actual hotel motel receipts. The remaining organizations are holding steady at prior year funding levels. I'm going to ask Bonnie Sperling to come up and share with you some updates about arts and cultural affairs.
Good evening. My name is Bonnie Sperling, and I currently serve the City of Dubuque as the Arts and Cultural Affairs Manager. Tonight, I'm going to just cover some highlights from the Office of Arts and Cultural Affairs, including the final year of the Arts and Culture Master Plan, an update on the Arts and Culture grant programs, as well as other funded initiatives. The work of the Office of Arts and Cultural Affairs is grounded in the goals and priorities established by both the Arts and Culture Master Plan and the Dubuque City Council. We are now in the 10th and final year of our current 10-year Arts and Culture Master Plan, marking an important milestone as we reflect on the progress made and begin to consider the future direction for arts and culture in our community. The Arts and Culture Operating Support Grants provides funding for the operational expenses of nonprofit arts and cultural organizations that advance strategic arts and cultural initiatives that serve the residents of Dubuque. This program is designed to expand community access to a wide range of arts and cultural experiences, fostering creativity, lifelong learning, and meaningful participation in Dubuque's vibrant arts and culture landscape. As you can see, well, on the right side of the screen here, in FY26, there were 20 operating support grant applications, and it is the desire of the Arts and Cultural Affairs Advisory Commission to fund every single eligible organization. So all 20 operating support grant organizations were funded. The total operating support grant award was $248,677. However, as this graph shows, Dubuque Arts and Culture sector has grown substantially in both size and scope, outpacing our current funding levels and creating a gap between available resources and community demand. The Special Projects Grant, which is what we did in 2020 or FY26, provides funding to support unique and innovative arts and cultural experiences that prioritize community engagement and meaningful partnerships, fostering opportunities for all involved to experience growth and transformation. In FY26, there were 13 special projects grants applications. We were able to fund 6 of them for a total award of $36,200. Here's a list of some of the folks that we have funded over the years and some of our partnerships. In other funded initiatives, in the year 2025, we hosted quarterly creative cafes, providing opportunities for local creatives and culture bearers from a wide range of backgrounds, experiences, and disciplines to engage in meaningful conversations and networking. We also utilized the remaining Bloomberg Asphalt Art Grant funding to refresh the existing bus stop murals that were begun in 2022. They were starting to look a little worn because of our Iowa winters. We made sure that they align with the recently completed artwork in 2025. Moving forward, the 2026 Art on the River Sculpture Exhibition, Stillness in the Driftless, has received 53 applications from 32 artists representing 12 states. 3 artists from Dubuque were selected for this highly competitive exhibition, including Hempstead High School junior Danielle Jelinek. Danielle is going to collaborate with fellow high school art students under the direction of her teacher, Taylor Hoser, in partnership with the University of Wisconsin-Platteville Sculpture Department. I thought this was a really exciting change. As you know, I'm a former educator, so I just love the fact that we are partnering with the schools as well as the colleges that are local. Back to Jill.
We have one improvement package that we're proposing this year, and it's actually a cost savings. It's to review arts and culture grants. As they come in, we need assistance with reviewing the applications, checking for eligibility, that sort of a thing. So this would be a recurring $3,000 cost. However, we're eliminating the intern position, so in fact, it's a net $7,500 savings. Okay, now we're going to talk big money. We have 3 capital improvement projects in our budget. We have the Downtown Rehabilitation Grant Program, which is the combination of the housing creation grants and the facade grants and planning and design. We have workforce development, which is funding that's provided to Greater Dubuque Development for the work that they do. And we have a new CIP that we're proposing, which is a downtown storefront activation program, and I'll describe that a little bit more in just a minute. All right, I want to call out what's in the CIP book. I heard some comments from the public the other night, and there was some concern about what do these numbers actually mean? Why am I seeing all of these different numbers? So I wanted to point out here, do the math on the slide so we can talk through what's actually available. The CIP book correctly shows a total project cost of $5.7 million. I will note, though, that that includes past carryovers. So that's adding up everything that's on that sheet. So it's everything we've already spent or committed and the 1,700 or the 1.7 million that we're requesting in the current 5-year cycle. So that 3.8, going to back up here, the 3.8 that's in the 2026 budget. Here's the status of that. When you back out what we paid out to projects in FY26, and then you take out the 2.3 million that is encumbered for projects underway, and you might be thinking, why you have just 2.3 million sitting around? Those are mixed use and housing projects that are underway right now. They're under construction, and that money will sit earmarked in the system until the project is complete. Now that we have an interim balance, you can look at another 170,000 that's currently committed in new development agreements and simply isn't in the system yet because we're waiting on paperwork, that kind of a thing. And the remaining 295,000 are in active negotiations. We don't have a development agreement yet, but we're in conversations with those developers. So the starting balance, starting this July 1st, is 0. Here's the projects that are currently encumbered but not finished. So back to the CIP booklet, when you see that 5.7 million over on the right, remember that we have to back out all of those costs, that all of that funding that's already committed, and we have $1.7 million showing in the 5-year period, and that is in fact what we have to use, is 1.7 million is the ask. The capital improvement project called the Downtown Storefront Activation Program, that's a new program that addresses upfront cost barriers for small businesses to get them in storefronts downtown. That portion of this program is based on a program they're using in Sioux City, Iowa, and they're having good luck with it there. It's not just handing out money to help people pay their rent. It's the business owner and the building owner both have to have skin in the game. So it would cover up to 25% of the first 6 months' rent, as well as a security deposit, and then the business owner and building owner have to pay the rest of that. So that would be some matching funds, and then that's 25,000 of the 100,000, and the other 75,000 is earmarked for Main Street's SWAP program. They started their SWAP program, grant program, using ARPA funds from the county. It was very successful, so we identified some funding in one of our line items related to downtown development and have provided an additional $60,000 to Dubuque Main Street recently for them to continue that program, and this would, again, continue their grant program as opposed to us creating something new. We'll use their mechanisms they already have in place to be doing those grant funds to redevelop the interiors of storefronts. We have performance measures that we look at. We've met the goals that we've set out for ourselves related to investments, property value increases, participants graduating the Opportunity Dubuque program, housing creation, job creation, and the number of rehab projects in our downtown. And I'm happy just to report Bonnie's as well. In the Arts and Cultural Affairs portion of our department, we look at the number of successful grant applications. We're quite pleased with those, and the percent increase from prior year in employment opportunities supported by the arts grantees. Where we see a challenge is the level of funding needs met. You saw the chart on the slide earlier where the requests are really outpacing the amount of funding that we have. And the amount of private other pledged matching city funds for arts grantee projects. So our approach is simple. The infrastructure enables the development, which creates a job and housing, growing the tax base, and making Dubuque a better place to live. This budget reflects a disciplined, high-impact approach to growth and investment. Thank you, and we're open for questions.
All right, well, thank you very much, Jill, and thank you, Bonnie, for your part of the presentation. All right, back to public input first. So if anyone has any public input on this particular part of the economic development budget, please come on up.
Good evening, everybody. Jason White, President and CEO, Greater Dubuque Development Corporation. Thank you to the City of Dubuque for your partnership with our organization as well. Remains the most important partnership that we have. Our 5-year You Can Be Great Here campaign begins its final drive on July 1st, 2026. We are requesting the same level of city support in year 5 that we requested in year 1, so thus no increase. As we prepare for a new public-private campaign, that's very loud. We will anticipate.
Back up a little bit, Jason, that'll help, yeah.
We anticipate year 5 to be a slightly lower revenue year, which is typical in multi-year efforts where many private investors make strong early commitments. In response, we're working to become leaner and more efficient. We chose, for example, not to refill the position that I previously held, and instead I am coaching and supporting our exceptional team who have all remained with GDDC following Rick's retirement as they take on new and expanded responsibilities. Coming from my former role, I remain actively engaged. I continue to meet with partners, investors, employers, and stakeholders. I want to hear directly from the people we serve so that our strategies are grounded in first-hand conversations, not second-hand summaries. Our board has also asked me to lead the succession plan for Dave Lyons, our Director of Strategic Initiatives, who will retire at the end of this year. Dave has been central to advancing childcare access, broadband expansion, and more recently working with me hand in hand in the exploration of a multi-use community sports complex. Ensuring continuity in this work is essential for both our organization and the City of Dubuque. Greater Dubuque Development's focus is on growth, jobs, business investment, wages, and tax base that supports the city's long-term financial health. Our vision centers on 2 goals. 1, becoming the region that performs best at attracting and developing talent and growing population. And 2nd, becoming the region that leads in attracting business investment, whether from existing employers, new ventures, or recruited firms. And anything that does not directly support these 2 goals requires careful analysis and examination. I'm honored to serve in this role, but there's a couple of things I want to highlight going forward as 2 areas that we need to address to be the best community that we want to be. 1 is talent attraction. The greater Dubuque area is beautiful, welcoming, and filled with hardworking, generous people. With that said, we want more of them. We have joined the Midwest and National Economic Development Associations and will continue positioning the region with the launch of a more aggressive talent attraction strategy informed by the feedback on our competitive gaps and competitive advantages. I know our team is really chomping at the bit, and this will be a focal point in our next campaign. And also the creation of development-ready land. Business attraction and expansion aren't solely driven by storytelling and marketing alone, and of course we have a very compelling story to tell. Companies make decisions based on the availability of development-ready infrastructure-served sites. As a region, including Dubuque, we know that there have been moments when the right site wasn't ready at the right time, and we have lost some opportunities as a result. As highlighted in this week's engineering presentation, however, a couple days ago, the community has already made significant infrastructure investments. The time is approaching to capitalize on those efforts. To compete and win, we must continue preparing the kinds of sites employers expect and securing the land needed to do so. Just to highlight a couple of things, picking up on Jill's presentation. So one of the things we are actively involved in is facilitating economic development projects. So that's an ongoing basis. Some of the more recent ones have been Universal Tank, Physical Therapy Solutions, FEH Design, and Vanguard. As you're very well aware from the last work session, our Info Action program continues to be a cornerstone and has for many years with the relationships we build with the existing employers, which also comes forward with a lot of the projects that we ended up working on. Our newcomer program and distinctively Dubuque efforts have been very focal been a focal point in our efforts to retain employees and population in our community. And our talent efforts with interns, with our summer intern program with Talent Dubuque, has also been a focal point of retaining college students in our market. The city of Dubuque does post jobs on accessdubukejobs.com. So in the last year, 102 jobs have been posted, 13,100 job seeker views, and 567 candidates directed to the website as a result. And finally, in addition to the regional associations I mentioned with the Mid-American Economic Development Council and the International Economic Development Council, we also subscribe to what's called Resimplify. So I mentioned before about product, sites, buildings, and infrastructure. What that does is it scoops real estate from real estate sites in our market so that we have a good sense on a rotating basis what's available on our market for sites, buildings, and infrastructure. So with that being said, appreciate your support and appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jason, for your comments. Anyone else on this budget? Anybody virtually? Okay, thank you. All right, back to us then for any discussion and questions. Mr. Resnick.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. So, Ms. Sperling, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Did you, Caprice, did you want to say something? Oh, yeah, please, come on. We'll back to public comments then. Sorry, Mr. Resnick. Thank you very much for catching me. A little slow on the uptake there, Caprice, but glad to see you.
I was waiting to see if somebody else is going to go.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
All right, thanks for having me. All right, so good evening, Mayor and council members. On behalf of our organization, I want to sincerely thank you for your continued funding and partnership over the years. Your support is not just helping us operate. It is helping us track progress, strengthen accountability, and make sure we are delivering real results for the people we serve. This year, our FY 2026 KPI scorecard is helping us measure that impact in a clear and meaningful way. Through our work, we are seeing growth across several areas, including DCJ Real Talk, Community Real Talk, and DCJ and Community Partners in Change. These programs remain at the center of our mission, and they continue to create space for connection, accountability, and transformation. Because of your support, we are serving more people and reaching more communities. Our roster, Partners in Change, has grown from 113 people in FY25 to a FY26 goal of 134 people. We have also completed 43 assessments in FY25 with a FY26 goal of 52, showing that more people are entering the pathway toward support and change. Our DCJ Real Talk attendance reached 525 in FY25, and our FY26 goal is 630. Our community Real Talk attendance was 733 in FY25 with a goal of 880 in FY26. These numbers show that the community is engaged, that the need is real, and that your investment is making a difference. We are also seeing strong engagement through our broader community work. We are aiming for 40 community engagements in FY26, up from 30 in FY25, because every presentation, workshop, and speaking opportunity helps us extend our reach and deepen trust. At the same time, we are focused on outcomes that matter beyond participation alone, including employment, connection to support services, graduation, and long-term stability. What makes this funding especially meaningful is that it allows us to pair compassion with accountability. We are not only serving people, we are measuring results, tracking progress, and holding ourselves accountable for outcomes. That includes monitoring our completion rates, staff retention, fundraising performance, and budget stewardship so we can continue this work sustainably. We also want to recognize the human side of these numbers. Beyond every attendance figure, every assessment, and every graduation is a person taking a step forward. Before every data point is a story of resilience, effort, and the possibility of change. This is why this funding matters so much. We are deeply grateful for the City Council's investment in this work, and we want you to know that your support is helping us build stronger programs, stronger partnerships, and stronger outcomes for our community. Thank you for standing with us and for believing in DCJ Real Talk, Community Real Talk, and DCJ and Community Partners in Change. And I would be remiss if I didn't share this personal, success story. It's a person that's been connected with us for the past 3.5 years. And she sent me a text message the other night. So we keep in touch with all our participants in some capacity. A majority of them actually still come to the Fountain of Youth on a weekly basis. So she said, "Hi Caprice, just letting you know I got uncomfortable with being comfortable and went for a department supervisor position at Lowe's, and I got it. This is why I haven't been at the meetings for a bit." She's been messing for 3 weeks. "I'm hoping to come back for some meetings. I just do not know when for sure. I hope all is well." So that's a success story. And this woman entered the Fountain of Youth almost 4 years ago, not knowing what she really wanted to do. But she ended up in DCJ for something minor, but yet it affected her life. And then she's been continually participating in our program in some form or fashion. And we partnered with Lowe's corporate to get people with backgrounds an opportunity to be able to get hired at Lowe's. And she's been there for 3 years, and now she's a department supervisor. So thank you all for keeping the doors open in some capacity. And I want to just leave with this. I watched earlier, I don't know if you all are familiar, but Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he was assassinated years ago in April. And they played his funeral. And as I was sitting back there, my hiney, it was hurting, from sitting back there. And I'm off today. And today I took my son to Iowa City to get his retainers. And then I actually came here, and I'm off today. But I had to remember why I'm doing what I do and why we do what we do. We do what we do as a collective because this is how we want to be remembered. We want to serve people. And I thank you all for believing and trusting in what we're doing. And thank you. Continue.
Thank you, Caprice, for your comments.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Could I ask Mr. Jones one question? Mr. Jones, would you mind coming up and telling us about the UMB Bank Award share of $1 million that your group did? I read that in the paper. I was so excited to hear that. Would you mind just telling us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, we were selected amongst, I believe, 5 organizations, and we was excited about, it was $175,000 that we was awarded, and we was given an opportunity, it'd be unrestricted funding to be able to like expand whatever we need to do with our organization. And what we've done is we've put it in CDs, and also we've put it in, it's still in our operating funds, so we won't, never, be lacking on being able to, pay staff and pay for things that's around the office. And so I was just grateful for the opportunity, and we just being good stewards of that money and making sure that we, we make it continue to grow in some capacity so we can keep doing what we're doing. So we're grateful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so excited. Your group is so wonderful. So thanks for coming and talking tonight too as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Robert, did I see you standing up too? Come on up. Yeah.
All right, since you're forcing me to speak, I'll speak.
I'm not forcing anything. I just want to make that clear.
I'm just kidding. Well, you all know how much the Dubuque Dream Center appreciates your support. I mean, that just goes without saying. That's why so many of us are here tonight representing the Dream Center, and even some of our youth have come out just to show how important your contribution is to what we do. You know that we impact youth and we seek to strengthen families. But we're in our 13th year. And in our 13th year, we actually have alumni. Over 90% of our alumni are now still in Dubuque as adults. They are in college at UD, Clark. A couple have went to the University of Dubuque. They are in the workforce, and some are even working for the Dubuque Dream Center. Since we started the Dream Center, and in 2016, when we first started to get support from the city, is when our impact was boosted and took off. Those funds, that investment, that support literally not only saved lives and transformed lives, but it contributed to young adults staying in our community because they seen that there's a community and leaders that care about them. As the city and all of our great leaders have these initiatives of bringing people to Dubuque and retaining Dubuque, don't forget about the Dream Center and our impact. Don't underestimate what we can do at the Dubuque Dream Center and the impact we can have to contributing to the economy in this community. I gotta say, because we all know, there's a couple of things that have been happening in our community with the youth that's tragic. We knew some of those youth personally. But for us, that scenario only reinforces why what we do is so important and where we're located. I remember Alex from the DRA before he left. I remember sitting in and listening to a presentation, and he said, we deserve nice things in Dubuque. I'll never forget that. It just really hit me. And all I can think about is the students and families we serve and where we were located. And I thought, you know what? We deserve nice things too. And you, Mike Van Milliken, I thank you, the city council, you all took the first step to helping us have nice things. You allowed us to purchase the building at Fulton. Actually, you gave us the funding for it. And as a result of that, we literally started our own academy. Now that's controversial, but for the Dubuque Dream Center and the families we serve, we're behind the scenes and we're not really being debated nationally in how those funds have impacted us, how we literally now have teachers in our building because of that support, that are pushing our students to academically high levels. Many of our students are progressing to honors level, getting off IEPs, things that wasn't happening in the 6 or 7 years some of them have been in other schools, schools. But here's something else incredible that happened unexpectedly, that even the school district didn't see coming. It enhanced our relationship with the district. We now have public school teachers that work at the Dream Center. Because of the Title I funds and support that's required, that they have to give when someone like the Dream Center now is serving Title I students. Now, I did tell them that even before we became an academy, went to the school board and says, hey, we're continuing the school day curriculum. I think those Title I funds, it's appropriate. Those teachers that are volunteering and that we're scrambling to try to pay them that work at the Dream Center, those Title I funds can support that. Well, now they have to, because now that we're a private school and that school choice option has enhanced our partnership. I won't say anything else about that, too controversial. Last couple things I'll say. Even though I did request an increase, I request 80,000 and we're getting 63,000. I will be so grateful for 10,000, 20,000, because what we're doing, the investment we're making, and how it's giving back to Dubuque, I'm not sure, even though the council and everyone understands the Dream Center's impact, I'm not sure if everyone really understands the difference the investment is making. Maybe the Dream Center, we need to do a better job of measuring that and articulating it, I'm not sure. But City Council, I'll never forget when you all gave me a presentation of the Dream Center. Me and Raquel sat up here and each and every one of you told us what the Dream Center is. So I know that you understand it. Because you said some things that I was surprised you even knew. And with that being said, I'm grateful for everything you all have done. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And I only hope, because I've spoken to each and every one of you individually, that you will continue to support us. And I also hope that you really find it in your heart to think about it, because I know, Mayor, there's a lot going on at the legislation, and funds are tight. But I really hope you all really, really think about it and reconsider how investing in sustaining the Dream Center, because even though we have those funds, we have those Title I funds, the after school and summer program is still where we struggle and we need support. So I hope you all really, really consider continuing to invest, but enhance your support. And if you have any questions, come see me again. Let's re-talk about it, because the Dubuque Dream Center can be a great representative for Dubuque. The Dubuque Dream Center is your organization. You invested in it. Don't forget about us. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, for your comments.
Mr. Mayor, could I speak to Mr. Kimball, ask you a question, or just let you know that just today, I was up at University of Dubuque, and a young woman was coming in for a vocal lesson. I said, wait a minute, don't I know you? And she said, yes, you taught guitar at the Dream Center, and I was one of your students. I thought, that's right. Of course, she's a lot taller.
Yeah.
And I see many of you, I see some volunteers, some dedicated volunteers of your Dream Center, which inspired me when I was down there, and the work and the students themselves, they just soaked up that information that volunteers were helping with. That you mentioned that they're out there doing great things, and just today, I witnessed one of your graduates doing great, arts work at University of Dubuque, and I'm sure that many others, because I know some of the fine character that those students have, and willing to work hard and learn. It was exciting to be down there. So I don't know if you still need volunteers, but that's a great place to volunteer because your work turns over and immediately takes effect in the lives of these students. So I just wanted to thank you for all the work that you're doing, acknowledge some of your volunteers, and congratulate your students as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor.
And can I say before I go, you're welcome back. I'm still open for that music expansion. Like, we would love to have you.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right, thank you, Robert.
You're welcome.
Yeah, let's move on, and then we can have discussions. Is that okay?
I just wanted to acknowledge, maybe have everyone affiliated with the
Oh,
Dream
yeah,
Center stand, because there's so many of you here tonight and you've waited so patiently, so many volunteers and students. I just want to salute you for your dedication and your hard work.
Thank you, Ms. Wethel. All right, is there any other public input before I move past that and come back to us for discussion? Okay, I appreciate all the input we've received tonight. And let me just say, it's not very often that this room is this full. I just want to point that out. And the fact that you showed up tonight speaks volumes of the importance of these places in your lives. So I just want you to know that I recognize that, and I think the City Council recognizes that in you being here to hear this discussion. I'm pretty sure Robert's going to let you go home before too long after we're done with this discussion here, and Caprice too, because I know a lot of you are with the Fountain of Youth. Can you raise your hands if you're here with the Fountain of Youth too? Yeah, thank you very much, and I do appreciate that you've been here tonight to be able to have these discussions and talk about what's important to you in this budget, because we talk a lot about numbers. We talk a lot about buildings. Sometimes we talk about leaky roofs that we have to fix that was in the engineering budget a couple days ago. But we also have a very human side of this. You're Dubuquers, and we need to talk about what this means to Dubuquers. So thank you very much for being here. All right, with that, let's move on to any questions or discussion about this particular budget. So we are on the Economic Development Fiscal Year 27 budget here. So Ms. Russell.
Thank you. I almost hate to speak after those two great speakers that just finished up. But I had a question about the arts and culture, and I wondered if you might be able to share with us how important the economic impact is and why you're maybe housed in the Economic Development Department.
I just happen to have that with me. So for those of you that don't know, in 2022, the Office of Arts and Cultural Affairs participated in the AEP 6 study, which is Arts and Economic Prosperity. And in 2022, well, the results came back in 23, which was the beginning of my tenure with the city. In fiscal year 2022, the arts and culture brought in $70,430,000 in economic prosperity to the city of Dubuque. So I have all the numbers in employment numbers. It was 1,527 folks that were employed in the arts organizations in Dubuque, and how much everybody spent. I mean, I have everything, so anyone that wants to know all that information, I'm more than happy to share that with you.
Well, thank you very much. I think your information and our last two speakers really tell us how economic development is so much more than just numbers. It's so much more about just jobs and buildings, and how it's really about quality of life and improving that for everyone who lives here. So thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Mr. Resnick.
Thank you. Ms. Sperling, while you're there, are we back to pre-COVID levels of audience? Do you know about the overall condition of the arts scene here? You do collect information and talk to the arts directors a lot. How are we doing? Are we back to pre-COVID levels of audience?
I don't think we're quite there yet. I mean, I haven't run the numbers yet from FY26. Those will be coming to me very soon. But we're getting close. We're much better. It's growing, but we're not quite back to where we were pre-COVID.
So why do you think the level of needed funding has exploded on that graph? Is just going, I mean, are they doing well? Are arts groups doing well, and we're adding more groups, or why? What's the funding?
Yes and yes. So there are more groups that keep growing and developing. We 2 years ago began the biannual, and we added the capacity building grant, opposite the special projects grant. So this allows some of our younger, newer organizations to really work on strengthening their core, whether it's their strategic plan, whether it's their donor or their volunteer development. And we're going to be doing that every other year. So it's making our new organizations that are starting a little more solid in their foundation and able maybe to last a little bit longer. So we have more organizations that are eligible for the grant. Expenses are always increasing, so people are always asking for more money. And then audience participation, everything costs more. So it's both.
Is the Arts and Cultural Affairs group, are you open to private investment as well? So that I know we have tax funds, but do you have, can you have banks and other people with money? Do you accept donations? And do you have a program to reach out to private businesses to build the arts? I mean, I hear a lot of businesses would like to support the arts, and they do to private, like the symphony has private donors, and I don't want to take any of those away from our marvelous symphony. But so do you accept, or do you go out or know that you're available for like $1 million name grant of some kind on that type of thing?
I have not pursued private funding.
And I don't know if that's even possible to mix.
I don't know if it is either.
Public and private funding for this.
Here we
but I just didn't know if there were possibility had been explored.
Is that allowed?
What I will say is that we don't go out, like the private organizations, they're welcome to go out and seek sponsorships from the private sector. What we have done in the past is applied for grants, either from the Bloomberg Foundation or other or a federal grant from the National Endowment for the Arts. So we have received some funding into our programs from that aspect. Maybe that answers your question, but not from the private sector giving us money to do programming.
Okay. Well,
So we generally don't compete with the
right.
private sector, not-for-profit sector on fundraising. There are a few exceptions. In the Bee Branch Creek flood mitigation project, we sold benches and bricks and named trees. In the Veterans Memorial on Chaplain Schmidt Island, which we're now responsible for, same thing. You can buy bricks with family members' names on them. And we also have a citywide bench naming program where you can pay to have a plaque put on a bench. But those are the only ones that I can think of.
Thank you. And I don't want to snatch any of those great, wonderful angels that support our arts. But I'm glad to hear about the grant funding, and you're aggressively pursuing those when those opportunities arise. Correct. So that's what I'd like to hear. There's more than just City of Dubuque money in it, and you're on the on the lookout for that. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mm-hmm. More? Yeah, Ms. Landick.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. And my comments here are for Jill and Jason with the GDDC. And from where I sit, I just want to stress the importance on business attraction and growth to create jobs. We need a lot of things in our community, and that's housing, healthcare, public safety, schools, education, and we need jobs. And I look forward to seeing the results of our investments that we're making and measuring those and tracking those, because that is, I think, a lifeblood of our community. So thank you. I look forward to it.
Thank you, Mr. Landick. Yeah, Ms. Wethel.
I just wanted to make a quick comment as it relates to our unique partnership with GDDC. This economy isn't easy. And I don't know that it will get easier anytime soon. The latest data from Iowa workforce development that I had was from January, and the non-farm employment by MSA, or Metropolitan Statistical Area, comparing January 25 to January 26. Dubuque went down 1%. Cedar Rapids went down 2.3%. Waterloo went down 4.1%. We are up against headwinds, and we need everybody at the table. There's a change in leadership at GDDC, and we need to have their back. This partnership is part of a 5-year pledge. Dubuque doesn't break promises, and they won't break them while I'm here. And so in the 42 years since GDDC has been established, this city has been a partner, and that has allowed us to be an advocate for our employers. It is a partnership. And I cannot speak to the importance of it as it impacts our community. Jason, I'm so glad that you are in your role. Your team is exceptional. Keep doing the work. Thanks.
Thank you. Others? Okay. All right. Well, Jill, thank you very much for this. Honestly, I obviously sat through a few of these budget presentations, but I just want to tell you that the one that you gave tonight, I think, probably had the greatest impact on me because of the story you were able to tell with the things you put together and the details.
Do you like the icons?
The icons were great.
Was
They were
that it?
wonderful. It was all about the icons. That's what it was. Now, and honestly, the building story was one that struck me, and I saw it earlier today when I was reviewing the presentation, and then was really listening closely when you were talking about that here, and the idea of what it means to do this investment. So, there's somebody, a couple people, I think Robert, it was you, I think, who mentioned the legislative challenges that we're up against, and we're in a strange environment currently when it comes to legislation and politics, I would say at both the national and state level currently. And when I say that, I mean that we're sort of, sometimes you refer to it as talking out of both sides of your mouth, something like that, where we say we want less government, we want less cost on things, but we want more people and more services and more things to do. And everybody's sort of saying that at the same time. And you can't have both of those things at the same time. You got to make difficult choices. But I think I heard some really great points tonight about what this means, because when we talk about smaller government, and particularly local governments are being pointed at right now as being the idea is that we're too bloated, we're doing too many things, we should just focus on the basics. We need police, fire, we need roads. Let's not even worry about parks, some people are saying. And I think my argument has been for a long time, and I've heard this argument around here a lot, that you got to have a really good, strong foundation and the good basics. But if you don't have the other things that make this a place that people want to live, they're not going to live here. They're just not going to do it. And, these things that we're talking about right now are the easy targets, I think, when you talk about cutting things. Why would a city invest in the arts? Let's just get rid of that. Why would a city invest in the Dream Center? We shouldn't be doing that. Let them do that themselves. Why would the city invest in the Fountain of Youth program? That shouldn't be doing that. We're going to talk about purchase of services here in a minute. It's a similar discussion, honestly. They're tough choices to have to make, but I'll tell you some of the things that I heard that tell me why we should think about doing these things. Robert, 90% of your graduates still live in the city of Dubuque. If that's not helping the population, I don't know what is. I mean, that's a great argument to be able to say this is a service that is being offered. And it's not just fluff either. The things you're doing matter to the people who have chosen to stay here for that long. Mr. Resnick pointing out that a student was at UD, met plenty of people who have been to the Dream Center working in the community. How many students at UD? Four students from UD at the Dream Center. That's great. And then Caprice, you got up, and I appreciate what you said too. You described how people can stay in the workforce with the services that they need and advance in the workforce in that way. Jill, you described, and Bonnie, you too, you described how investing in things like buildings and arts and those types of things are actually it adds value to the community, it adds housing to the community, it adds dollars in people's pockets that they spend in the community. There's a reason why we choose to do this. Now, you got to balance it out, and that's the difficult decision we're sitting here making, is how much do we do that? But the idea that we shouldn't do it at all, I'm just never going to get behind that idea. I think we absolutely have to talk about how we do this, because when I talk to people about what they like in Dubuque, it's the stuff that we just talked about tonight, and it's those important things that matter. So for me personally, I think it's important that we continue to invest in these, and we find a way to do it. It is at times difficult to increase, like we talked about tonight. I don't think we're in one of those places where we can say that we're going to spend a whole bunch more money on these things, answer all the desires of the arts community, for example, as much as I might want to. I recognize that we can't really do that right now. We really are facing some difficult headwinds and crazy uncertainty. We just have no idea in some ways what legislation is going to hit us, what's going to happen next at the national and international level. There's just a ton of that. So these are challenging things, but what we're doing here, you made a great argument, all of you that spoke tonight, of why this matters and why we should keep doing it. So thank you for speaking up on that. I think it's important, and I'm glad that it's recorded so people can hear it and that everybody's going to be able to watch this and talk about it as we continue to go through this process and make difficult choices. So thank you for that. All right.
Thanks for
Appreciate
your
the
support.
presentation.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it. Thanks.
All right. We are on to number 4 of 5 for this evening, which is the Purchase of Services Fiscal Year 27 budget. Corey, is that going to be you? I see you on the move. Okay, so when you're ready, we're ready.
All right, lots of movement happening. I do want to say before our partners leave that this presentation is as much about their work as our work, and so if they're going to walk out, I want them to hear me say thank you as they're leaving. Corey Burbach, Assistant City Manager for the City of Dubuque. I'm going to talk about the Purchase of Services program tonight, and this presentation is a little bit different than our other department presentations that you hear, where we're talking about kind of one encapsulated department and mission, right? Purchase of Services is a program. It is one of 3 different types of investments that you'll see in the budget that are designed to work collectively. So we braid different funding streams to invest in the partners that you've heard from tonight so far, and that you will hear about in other presentations throughout this process. We do this because of the things that you were talking about, Mayor, because we as a city have decided that we want to see certain goals achieved, and the way that we can sometimes do that best isn't by providing those services ourselves, but investing in the partners who do the work best and who are connected to the communities that we want to serve. So that's why we have this bucket of funding that we utilize every year. So I just want to talk about what this presentation is and what it is not. But recognize that these funding sources do go together. So I am going to talk a little bit about a couple of different things tonight. This budget presentation and the decision that we're asking council to think about right now is about the Purchase of Services Grants program. So I'm going to start by describing that program. It is different than the Contracted Services program, which totals about $3.4 million. And you heard Jill in the last presentation talk about what some of those are. And I will list the rest of them as we go through this so that you can see where the funds lie. And then the last bucket of funds that we use to invest in the community is something that I think about as direct grants that often go, actually, some of the most fun projects to see are to resident groups, right? So when we think about how we invest in the community, we can do the work, we can partner with organizations to do the work, and we can hear from our residents and empower our residents to be part of the solutions to the challenges that they bring to us. And this last bucket of grants that includes our arts and culture, sustainable Dubuque, community support and empowerment, and our neighborhood grants, many of those funds go to being able to say to residents and to small organizations, thank you for bringing this opportunity to us. Thank you for bringing an exciting solution. Here's some funds to get you started, and we're going to be there along every step of the way with you to make great things happen in our community. So Purchase of Services first. Purchase of Services are funds that we give out each year to activities that you determine fit city council goals and priorities that we typically would not provide within the normal course of city business.
The funding gets allocated each year, and then I'm going to show you how it is a competitive process that nonprofits from the community can apply for. Those applications are reviewed by the Community Development Advisory Commission. That is a commission that's staffed by the Housing Department that you heard from earlier. And then they send that recommendation to you each fiscal year. So while tonight you will be talking about how much we want to put in that bucket, you will ultimately approve each of those contracts so you can see exactly what our partners are going to do with the funds. The next two slides are kind of nuts and bolts, but I think it is helpful to understand how this program operates. So the organizations that can apply for our purchase of services funds are nonprofits that provide year-round human resource programs. And when I see that, I think of like HR hiring. I don't mean it in that sense. I mean resources for human services in our community. So you can see a little bit more in detail how we lie that out. The mission must be consistent with one or more of the City Council's goals or priorities that you set each year. And we are specifically looking for programs and services that benefit our low and moderate income populations. The services must be delivered within the city. And when we say low and moderate income, we use two different ways to analyze that. It can be direct service to low and moderate income households, or they can be activities that benefit a low or moderate income service area or census tract. So we can look at a neighborhood approach to this. We fund both place-based and person-based programs, and we are really looking for opportunities to increase potential and increase collaboration with our residents. Generally, what I would say about this pot of funds is that we fund programs and services. You can see the list of ineligible costs here on the screen as well. So the timeline for this program, the kind of cadence, is that through this budget process, you allocate the amount of funds that will be in the bucket for the year. You may have seen we start about the same time of year doing some training with our nonprofits so that they really understand what we're looking for. They understand the organizations that you heard from tonight. We're sharing with you some really great both quantitative and qualitative success stories. They understand what we're looking for to say, yes, this is a good use of city funds. So we do that training in the spring. We ask for a competitive application process. And then, as I mentioned, the commission will ultimately review those applications and send recommendations to you. So this is the list of organizations that were funded in the fiscal year 26 Purchase of Service Program. I want to recognize that for many years, this has been a recurring $100,000 pot of funds that comes from the general fund. So you can see the different organizations up here, some of whom you've heard from tonight. I do want to recognize that I have lots of staff behind me and on the go-to meeting. If you do have specific questions about what's happening with any of these programs, we would be happy to answer those for you as well. What is being recommended for fiscal year 2027 for this program is a continuation of the $100,000 general fund that you have seen in the past. So now I want to shift and just talk a little bit about each of those other funding sources. Sometimes when we talk about purchase of services, someone will go, oh, I thought I was in that bucket. So I want to name who's in these other buckets so you can kind of see the difference. So additional fiscal year 2027 investments that you're seeing proposed. The first slides that you'll see here are contracted service. Everyone on this slide is a general funded organization. And the way that these contracts work, you see the responsible department column in the middle. Those departments work with each of the organizations to negotiate a contract and determine what's going to be done with the funds. And so you'll hear, as Jill did, those departments will highlight some of the success stories throughout these budget evenings. If you're curious about more of the details about what's happening. You can see one organization, two different categories here. ECIA in their membership dues and transportation planning are recommended for increases. Everyone else on this slide, we are recommending no change for fiscal year 27. The second slide is also general funded contract services. Again, you can see most of these partners on this slide have a $0 change. The one change that we are recommending, and you'll hear more in the health services budget about the change in services, is for the Humane Society, and that's about a $28,000 increase recommended. We do have a few contracted services that are funded with other funding sources, and so I wanted to call those out specifically on this slide. The first is Travel Dubuque, which Jill mentioned is funded with hotel motel tax revenue. And so that is that number is determined based on how much comes in, and we have an agreement with Travel Dubuque that they get the majority of those funds. So you see the projected change there. Then we have Greater Dubuque Development Corporation, as Jason mentioned, recommending a $0 change on those two. So the rest of these slides then are just a snapshot of what's happening in those other smaller grant programs. And as I mentioned, many of these are going to community organizations, neighborhood associations, maybe smaller startup nonprofits that don't have some of the backbone that some of our larger organizations have. So you see that we have Sustainable Dubuque grants recommended for funding at $25,000. Neighborhood grants are recommended at $39,560, and there is an improvement package here that you'll hear about in the Community Impact Department's budget presentation. You just heard from Bonnie about our arts grants, so I won't spend a lot of time on those. And then our community support and empowerment grants, those live in our Human Rights Department. I wanted to grab just a snapshot of what actually gets done with those funds. So when we think about the Sustainable Dubuque grants that have been funded in this fiscal year, so fiscal year 26, the column on the left have already been approved by you. So the process for this one, similar to purchase of services, we have a commission review applications. Here's the Resiliency Advisory Commission. The column on the left you've already approved. The column on the right, the commission is meeting tonight. So these will be coming to you, assuming that that recommendation comes through. I wanted to include it to make sure that we recognize those nonprofits, but that'll be coming to you hopefully at your next council agenda. When we think about our neighborhood grants, any of you who have been to a neighborhood block party or some of our holiday gatherings have seen the impact that a small amount of dollars can have on some of these. So you can see the top ones here are some of our most active neighborhood associations. They can actually apply for multiple grants in a fiscal year for multiple events. So you see that is why some of those folks have multiple grants listed up there. And then the other thing that's exciting about this grant program is that we offer the opportunity for other organizations to partner with a neighborhood group. Sometimes they have some capacity that the neighborhood associations don't have. So you can see the second half of this list is some of those organizations that have offered some great events and services in our neighborhoods. This slide got a little tiny on the text, I apologize, but this is a reiteration of something that you've seen before. So these are those arts operating grants that Bonnie discussed and what's going out the door in fiscal year 26. And then these are the special projects totaling $35,000 also that Bonnie discussed. The last one of our direct grants that we give out into the community is our newest, our baby grant program, and that's the Community Support and Empowerment Grant. I mentioned this comes from our Human Rights Department, and so you can see the organizations there. This grant application is also reviewed by members of our Human Rights Commission. So I want to recognize in all of these grant programs the role that our resident volunteers and those commission members play, because often the part that our commissions do really well is hearing. There are ears in the community. They know what the needs are. And these grant programs allow them the opportunity to advise you and connect the dot on how we can address some of the things that we hear about. So I want to thank all of them for the extra time they spend on these grant reviews. So again, this particular presentation is focused on the Purchase of Services grant, but we wanted to recognize those other two funding sources to see how often when a resident walks into a city office, they don't often say, I'd like to apply for purchase of services, or I would like to have a community support and empowerment grant, please. What they say is, here's my idea for the community. And so what our staff that are here do really well is hear that idea and say, here's what would work best for that idea, and here's how we can help to make that happen. So we did want to include a complete picture tonight, and I and other staff are happy to answer any questions.
All right, well, thank you very much, Corey. To any public input first on the purchase of services fiscal year 27 budget? Happy to hear that now. If there is none here, anyone virtually, you're standing over there now? Okay, all right, so no public input, so we'll come back to us for discussion then. Mr. Resnick.
Mr. Mayor, I think this really talks about the things that you mentioned, and Mr. Leyendecker talked about with gaining jobs and gaining folks in our community, bringing people here, keeping them here, raising their families here, as you've mentioned, and done so many things to make our community just not a decent place to live, but a great place to live. And who doesn't want that? With people, say my son, he works for a Davenport company, but he wants to live in Dubuque. He lives in Dubuque, and he works for a Davenport company because that's where the job was. That happens a lot, and he loves Dubuque, not just because his parents live here, but because it's a great place to live. So these are the very things that you were talking about, as well as Mr. Leyendecker. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Leyendecker.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think this question probably is most for Jason White. I was curious if you could expand upon the role that's outlined on slide 10 here, which is the GDDC's Director of Sustainability Innovation, and it says the department is economic development. So curious on how that impacts your organization and how that helps overall in the community from what your missions are.
Yeah, it goes back to my earlier comments about Dave Lyons. So that's the work that he does and supports. So there's some overlap there between the things the city wants accomplished and the things that we do. And so when I talked about, childcare, housing, some of the earlier incentives that stimulated some of the housing growth over the last several years came as a result of his experience working with other communities and what other communities were doing, and able to bring some of those ideas here. So his role, again, we technically would expire at the end of June, so we talked him into staying until the end of the year to give us a little extra time to transition in that role. But I think what his role does is we kind of view it as kind of a research and development oriented role within our organization, where we're all paid staff day to day to do the work that we do consistent with our strategic plan. So is Dave. But at the same time, he's got some flexibility because he's connected to different markets, that he can bring new ideas into our community on special projects. And he's able to do that on some of those things related to childcare, housing. Most recently, as I mentioned, the multi-use sports complex. We're working on putting together a board for that purpose to kind of get that spearheaded. So he helps in a lot of those types of things. So that's why that's kind of called out specially, because he's not a paid member of our team. He's a contracted member of our team. And that support largely, not all, because we pay some of that too, outside of city funds, is paid as a result of large part because of that appropriation from the city.
Great. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that additional explanation. And I see how it directly aligns with what your mission and what your goals are that you're outlined to accomplish. So appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
May I speak to Mr. White here too? Sure. You mentioned that in the future, in the near future, why don't we have it now, is some more land and some more perhaps industrial parks, those kind of things. And they have in the past been part of our top priorities, high priorities. And we definitely will consider those as top and high priorities coming up in August or whenever we have those. Because I agree, it's time that we look at that and see how we can enhance those possibilities of bringing in new businesses and accommodating our local businesses who are expanding and want more land to, increase jobs and bring more people here. So I just wanted to let you know, I thought you were pretty subtle about asking for that type of thing. And I said, is that what you were asking for, or thinking that we could do better as far as a city council?
Yeah, I don't know if it's, I think we can collectively do more to kind of keep our eye on the ball on that point. And we're not an easy community to develop, so it takes a lot more sweat equity for us to develop sites and find sites than maybe some other communities, right? There's a reason why Dyersville's Industrial Park, for example, is taking off so much into Delaware County, because they have flat land and they're easier to develop. Their topography lends itself to that. But again, there's other issues too, right? I mean, I'm a farm kid from Western Dubuque County, and I know that people around here love to farm, right? So that's part of our heritage too. So you got to have people who are willing to sell. We talk to some of those folks daily, so you got to have willing sellers. You got to have land that the city has identified for infrastructure and utilities, which you're doing. I referenced the engineering department earlier on too. So there's a lot of things that have to align. But I think for us, we get a lot of leads that say, hey, I'm looking for a 20, 30, 50, 100 acre site. Data centers looking for 500 to 1,000 acres, right? We're not getting many of those right now, but we might. And we'll have to make some decisions at that point too. But so we don't chase everything, but we want to be prepared. In order to be prepared, you have to have inventory, right? In order to have inventory, there's a lot of coordination that goes involved with public, private sector, and also planning for infrastructure utilities. We're going through a site certification process right now with the state of Iowa to try to certify 20, 30 acres in the Crossroads Industrial Park, for example. So that when somebody does show up, we can say, hey, we got a binder of information for you that says we have either everything ready or how we can make it ready.
Great, thank you. And I know Mr. Van Milligan and past councils have also been very supportive of this, of being ready to do business and have sites ready. So hopefully we can look at that in the next year as well. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mm-hmm. Other discussion here on, thank you, Jason. I'm going to back up. Discussion on the purchase of services budget. Okay. All right. Well, these two kind of bled together, these discussions here, but thank you very much, Corey, for that. All right. Well, with nothing else to say here, that would take us to our last budget hearing of the evening, which is the transportation services budget. So we will welcome that team up. And then after that, of course, we will discuss our one action item for every one of these nights, which is just talking about anything that we've held for separate discussion.
You guys ready?
Yes, we are ready to go. Please.
I didn't know if you wanted to stand up, stretch, or anything like that, Mr.
I'll
Mayor.
do that, but you can go ahead
Not a
and start
problem
talking.
at all. Yeah. Everybody's leaving me. I mean, I thought I was the highlight, the main event.
Be the last one there, Ryan.
Good person.
I am sorry. I'm Ryan Nucky, Director of Transportation Services. I'm here tonight to present the FY27 Transportation Services budget. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, City Manager Van Milligan for being here for this. Transportation Services is built on the transit division, which would be the Jewel buses for the city buses, along with the parking division that runs the ramps and lots and meters throughout the city. Our mission statement for both departments is very clear: provide transit and parking services in the city of Dubuque for citizens and visitors, connecting people to employment, services, schools, and recreation that are safe. And I'm going to stress safety a lot tonight. Accessible, convenient, consistent, and professional. Our department, we have 54.37 full-time equivalents. That is a lot of part-time people we have in there. I want to stress that we are a very diverse department, but 54.37 full-time equivalents. I'm the Director of Transportation Services tonight. Russ Steckline is our Parking Operations Supervisor. Jody Johnson's the Transit Supervisor, and Joey Leak is our Transportation Analyst. We are the ones that come to you guys to bring you our plans and go through what we're looking at doing future state, but it's really our day-to-day operations that does everything for us. Our dispatch that gets there at 4:30, our drivers that show up in the morning, our parking techs that take on-call 24/7, 365. So we literally run nonstop throughout the year. We do have a transit advisory board. Greg Orwell sits as our chair. Dora, Tammy, Katie, and Alex fulfill the board. This is a very diverse board and brings a big background, which helps us out immensely on the transit side. So with their background and their input, and I always like to get questions, and they love to question, why are we doing that? What's that for? How is that going to benefit us? So I can't thank them enough for their time and them volunteering to help us. Fiscal year 26 highlights. It's always the first thing I put on here. I love the honor flight, and I'm always so happy that we're able to do it. If you guys have never been on it but want to ride the buses as we transport people to and from, you're more than welcome to. But it's a fantastic event. We're very fortunate that we can help support that. We always engage in the Back to School Bash and all city life events that TEMWA puts on and does such a great job of doing that. The Jewel released a request for proposal to start the Areas of Persistent Poverty study. I'll elaborate on that more in a second. 6 of our downtown parking ramps now have the Amano 1 gate equipment installed, which I'll have some slides on that later. The Porter Dubuque ramp does not have any parking equipment that we utilize in that ramp. A request for proposal has been released for both on-street and mobile license plate recognition, and we set a work session for first week in May to go through that as we get there. Future initiatives, that picture does show our new electric bus that did show up down at the JOTC facility. We are not letting anybody drive it yet. It's a very nice paperweight currently. We have to do a lot of training on this equipment. This is 100% totally different than driving anything that we have today. The acceleration, the weight load of this. Along with that, we're going to be doing a lot of training with the fire department, police department, and our public works team is going to get a full once-over. Another thing that we're looking forward to is the Jewel was awarded the Areas of Persistent Poverty grant. This is a federal grant, so it is a match. It's a $225,000 grant from the federal government. We have a $25,000 match for the grant. This is to help us optimize bus routes, identify potential service changes, identify facility and equipment needs. It's going to do a full study of what we're doing. And to get that information, the main goal of the RFP was public input, stakeholder input, and city council input. So we're currently in the selection stage for the consultants for that. Once we get that completed, we'll be coming back to council for approval, and then we'll get that moving, and I'm pretty sure we'll be doing some work sessions coming up. Smart Parking Mobility Management Plan. I bring this, and we make progress every year. It's slower progress with the amount of staff we have. So like I said, this year we have all 6 of our ramps are up on the new Amano 1 equipment, and we're going to be starting our pay-by-plate and mobile license plate recognition request for proposals. Those proposals are due next week. We're very excited to see what they look like, and the biggest thing we're going to be looking at is the overall average capital cost, average operational costs, all along with functionality for the systems, along with ways to pay and mobile options. So we already set a work session for May 4th with City Council to go through that when we have that data compiled. Safety measures. I love this word. Every day we're doing safety measures, whether it is the eye in the sky or it's just cleaning buses. All of our buses that leave in the morning come back through the shop, and they are getting washed down, wiped out to make sure that we have very presentable equipment as they go out the door. All of our parking ramps get a once-over throughout the day, and then throughout the week they get a more deep cleaning as needed. Biggest thing that has helped support us this year and on a daily basis is just camera coverage. We get a lot of requests of issues in the ramps that we can pull up cameras and say, we're looking at the cameras and that might not have happened. Issues on the bus where we're able to work with our SRO teams and students that aren't following certain rules, that we're able to work with them to have students remove from the bus as needed. The camera coverage in our ramps and our buses is a massive time saver for us, along with a big help just proving what actually happened in that situation. And then along with that, we do a lot of yearly employee training. Kelly Larson's team does a very good job with that. As far as FY27 request for property tax support, the Jewel Transit is requesting $36.12. When we look at the parking division does not receive general fund tax support, but does receive greater downtown TIF funds to support debt reduction. Now I have this broken up into our transit team and our parking team, and I would love to start with our transit operations. Transit operations is the Jewel Transit Division, manages fixed route and paratransit services, as well as maintenance and planning for transit vehicles, bus stops, and other capital infrastructure. We have our 3 transfer locations that we currently utilize, 15 bus shelters, over 280 bus stops, 13 light-duty buses, and 17 heavy-duty buses. We get a lot of requests throughout the year for bus stops, which is fantastic. We will take a look at our current routes, see if we can implement it in the route. The biggest thing we also have to watch out for is safety, because our buses create big blind spots, and if it's creating a blind spot and it's not safe, we're not able to put it there. And vice versa. If it's on a corner and we don't feel it'd be safe for us to be pulling off or people getting off, we will have to decline or look at a different location that we can utilize that. I like to show this slide, but I do need to explain this slide. So this would be, encompasses all of our paratransit buses along with our fixed route buses. We receive a majority of funding from the FTA and the state DOT. With that funding, they have requirements and they also have evaluations that they do on vehicles. So all of the green vehicles on this fall within the useful life cycle per FTA guidelines. So you'll see per each bus it explains the year of the bus, how many vehicles, and it falls within 4 years of useful life. That does not mean this equipment's not usable. It just means that's the FTA requirement, that's the standard that they go by. And as long as we have equipment that falls outside of that, we could potentially receive funding to get that equipment replaced through federal grants or state grants. We have a fantastic garage. The Public Works does a great job making sure our equipment's taken care of. Every year, all of these pieces of equipment go through annual inspections. We're looking at, is it something we can repair in-house, out-of-house, or are we better off to move that piece of equipment down the road? You'll see we have buses up there from 2002, 2011. I guarantee you they've seen new motors, new transmissions. We do what we can to keep equipment running to keep our costs down. The Jewel does a ton of partnerships. We do a lot with schools, nonprofits, hospitals. We're always trying to work with people on the current routes we have or any way we can accommodate their needs in a better manner. As far as transit revenue sources, you'll notice on this page, it shows federal assistance and state assistance. They make up a vast majority of our funding that comes in. And that's where we have to abide by certain FTA DOT guidelines. We're not a charter bus, we're not a school bus. We cannot be for hire, we cannot deviate from routes unless it's a safety issue. There's a very thick manual that Jody Johnson has to follow. As far as expenses, our buses run 4:30 in the morning till 8 o'clock Monday through Friday. Saturdays we're running 8 till 5. That's a lot of employee hours. So the majority of our expenses, you'll see about 75% of the expense does fall under employee-related costs. As we look at ridership, and I believe Mr. Resnick, we talked about this on Monday night, we are seeing a consistent growth in ridership, which is fantastic to see. As we go through this study, we're going to be looking at current ridership compared to what we can do to future ridership and how we can get people to where they want to be faster. Currently, we have a network that does a very good job of coverage, but how do we move them faster? And that's going to be one of our goals that we have set in the Areas of Persistent Poverty grant. Now I'd like to transition to our parking operations. The parking division provides and maintains ramp, surface lot, and metered parking to support that encourage economic growth and address business and residential parking needs in the downtown area. We have 7 parking ramps, 18 surface lots, over 1,800 meters, and 8 residential parking permit districts that we manage. I also put this map up here. It does encompass our downtown metered district. It shows the meter district along with the parking meters throughout. And now we get to the Amano One equipment. So this equipment we're very, very excited about, and I dug and I dug, and I could not find pictures of our old equipment. I just wanted to see the face of it. We had sticky notes on them, we had bullseyes on them, we had all this type of information on there to make it easier for people to utilize, and I am sorry I could not find those pictures. But the new equipment, you pull in, very easy touchscreen to read and use, very easy spot to use your Prox card. It's set up like most 21st century cities. So we're not in the dark ages anymore. As you move into that, if you do have a permit, picture number in the middle, the picture in the middle there shows the red circle, which that is circling our LPR camera, our license plate recognition camera. What that does is if you have your license plate on file with a permit, as you pull into the ramp, as long as you're not tailgating anyone, I want to say that again, do not tailgate people, and your license plate is cleaned off, that will read your license plate, open the ramp gate, and you'll be able to drive right in without having to stop. What this does is it reduces the congestion in the entry-exit lanes. So if there's big concerts, if there's rush hour, or I shouldn't say rush hour, if it's a busy morning and people are trying to get in and out of the ramps, this makes it so people just keep flowing through the gates as long as, again, they're not tailgating. That's the number one issue we're finding is they tailgate, the camera can't see their plate, and then they have to use their Prox card. The number one thing they also should have is their Prox card, and I want to make sure I said that so people have that on file. The third picture up here is showing that some of our ramps were not previously well represented that it's for public parking. So we're going through the downtown and the ramps right now, making sure that people can see, hey, this is for the public. So we're making sure that there's signs on it. And then you'll also notice up there, it shows the spaces available in the ramp. So as people pull up, they don't have to wonder if they're going to find a spot. They know, hey, look, there's 167 open spaces. I'll be able to pull in, utilize the ramp accordingly for my day. Future state, we're going to be talking on-street and parking lots, along with the LPR system for the parking enforcement team. None of these vendors have been selected. These are just examples I want to show you. So the first picture of the IPS smart meter, that is just like our meters today, just takes a lot more technology, as in it'll take credit card, coins, a mobile app. The middle picture there will show a kiosk that also has multiple different ways you can pay with it. Then Park Mobile and Passport Parking are systems that are just strictly mobile apps and would not need any physical components. As far as the parking division revenue sources, as I mentioned before, parking does not receive property taxes. It does receive funding from the tax increment and financing. And then as we look at operational expenses, again, our parking team, they're on call 365 throughout the year. So Christmas Day, phone rings, we're picking it up, we're fixing the issue. We don't have a call center if something breaks down in the ramps. It's us, and we are the call center. So majority of our costs are employee expenses and supplies and services. I also had a slide with parking stats. So this is for FY25. We issued 18,432 tickets. The City of Dubuque does have courtesy tickets. These are actually the positive phone calls we get. I got a ticket on my car. It says it's a 0 value. It's your lucky day. It's your first offense at a meter. They are not for fire lanes. They're not for handicap. They are only for meter tickets. But they are positive phone calls we get. If people feel that they did receive a ticket and it's not a valid ticket, they can go through the adjudication process through the city website. They can appeal the ticket, and we'll go through the process to see if there was a glitch in the data system or if something happened that we did make a mistake. We are only human, and we'll make sure that appeal is approved. Improvement packages. Last year I said I'd bring this back. We are requesting a part-time bus attendant position for the Jewel buses. This position would be an afternoon system for 4 hours an afternoon. It's a part-time job. And it would be because we're seeing an increase of students on the bus that we want a consistent face on the bus in the afternoon to help manage the students that are riding the bus, to keep it manageable for the driver, to keep the buses safe. Our driver's job is to manage the large vehicles that they drive in a safe manner. And this position, with it being a consistent face, would help out with students in the afternoons. We don't have any issues in the morning. Our mornings, the students get on, they're pretty groggy, we'll call it, slower. But if you need a little bit of energy in the afternoon, you hop on the green route as we go pick up Prescott kids, and you'll get that extra energy. The second request I am asking for is our Central and Fifth Street ramp. I'm asking to increase the monthly permit rate from $57 to $70 per month for both of those ramps. And per the city agreement, the city may start charging for monthly parking and proposes a $50 permit rate for the Port of Dubuque parking lot. I put a slide together in here to show that the raise-in rates for the Fifth Street and the Central Avenue ramp, they would level off with the other ramps we currently have, except for the Five Flags ramp, which I'm requesting that stays at $38. And then as far as surface parking lots, I put some examples in here. The Port of Dubuque lot would fall right in the middle of the other lots shown. I do want to note that this charge and change would not happen until January of 2027. That way businesses, residential areas could put that into their yearly budgets for next year. As we look at capital improvements, like I mentioned before, every year we go through our buses and we're looking at what do we need to transition out of our fleet. And at the current time, we really don't need to transition anything out of our fleet, but we received a FTA grant for 2 more electric buses or hybrid buses. And that grant's for $2,767,000. The federal funding is $2,359,000. The city match for this is $408,660. The FY27 capital improvement projects for the parking division, we're requesting $57,500 for parking lot maintenance. Port of Dubuque, we're looking at $89,000. Smart parking system, we're asking for no funding this year until we get the on-street and the mobile enforcement put together. And then next year, or potentially the following year, we'll be coming back looking for funding for wayfinding, as in new signage, so people can navigate downtown better. I do want to discuss the last one I have on here. Last is the best. Parking ramp major maintenance. So I have this put on here from FY25 through FY31. So you'll notice in the FY27 cost, we're requesting $1.9 million for next year. But for the total project cost, it's almost $16 million built in there. And Jill Connors did a very good job earlier explaining that there's funding that's been approved that's just not utilized yet. So in FY25, City Council approved the repairs for Iowa Street ramp. And if you've gone past Iowa Street ramp, that's being repaired right now. But by the time we get the funding for it and we get the construction documents put together and send it out for bid, which that went out for bid twice to make sure that it fell within funding, it takes a little bit of time. And same thing with FY26. We were approved for $2.8 million. We're currently working on an RFP document right now. We don't like to pour concrete in the middle of the winter, so it does take a while for these funds to be used up. They are allocated to certain events and that we know what we're going to spend them on, but it does sit there for a little while just to get the paper processed to get to a start date. I do want to stress, as far as the last one here, we had Desmond Consulting, it's an engineering firm out of Chicago, do a preventative maintenance plan for the ramps. So they came to town in 2022, did an assessment all of our ramps. And when I'd say they did an assessment, they didn't do a drive-through and just look at the concrete. They literally went through the elevator shafts, they went through the heating systems, all the water systems, and they have it's really based on the front 5 years, then a 10-year, then a 15-year plan built out on what we need to be looking at maintaining. The biggest thing in there is the tighter and the more we keep up with their plan, the less the wear and tear is on the ramp, as in waterproofing the rooftops, repairing the elevators as needed, or replacing. So these numbers here are based on an engineering firm's knowledge and professional background, we'll put it that way. So these numbers are put together. I brought those with me tonight in case you did have specific questions on them. but that's where these numbers are being projected from. Performance measures, we're always looking at how close are we to how close are people to bus stops, how close are we to schools. Annual ridership's always a big thing we're looking at. Along with that, this will all be reviewed as we move into the areas of persistence and poverty study. And then, as I had the slide earlier that showed a lot of the organizations we work with, we also like to track, what are organizations, buying for bus passes and monthly passes and single rides. And nonprofits can work with the Jewel on a discount that we do give them. Along with that, we're always looking at different ADA compliance things that we can do. And I still have not found a minibus that fits Dubuque that would do a drive-on ramp yet. Our hills and our curbs, we just haven't found one yet. We brought one or two to town and we've tried them out, and they're just not something that's going to work for us yet. So we keep moving forward with the equipment we have, and our drivers are doing a great job with it, and we keep improving what the equipment and the ADA equipment inside the vehicles to give our passengers their independence. Every day we're looking at frequency of service, reliability of service, and efficiency of service. And like I said before, you may see me come to council, but the important people in my department are the day-to-day. The people that are getting in the bus seats, the people that are making sure that the ramps are running every day. Our dispatch team that takes hundreds of phone calls a day just to keep everybody moving throughout the city. I can't do this alone, and these departments are a huge help, and they are not the only ones that help us. But the fire department, police department do a great job at working with us, not only assisting us when an emergency does happen, but as far as training throughout the year with our drivers on different techniques they can use with riders when there is an issue. Our Parks and Rec team do a great job keeping our city looking amazing. And I do want to give a big shout out to Public Works. They do a great job keeping our equipment running on a daily basis, but this winter was fantastic, and hopefully the snow stays away again next year. But they kept the roads cleared, our buses kept running, we didn't have any major issues in service. So with that, I'm here for any questions that you have.
All right, well, thank you, Ryan. We are in our last public hearing of the evening. Do we have any public input on the Transportation Department budget this year? Seeing none here. Anyone virtually? All right. We'll just come right back to us for discussion then. Ms. Wethel.
I think two questions. The first is related to page 100, one of one improvement package of the part-time bus attendant position. It's part-time, later in the day, as you said, and it sounds like when kids aren't in school, they'll help with other routes based on what I'm reading. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Because I noticed, I would think most bus attendants don't need to have the Class B CDL, but they will because in off hours they will be helping.
That's correct.
With transportation. Great. The other is a more general question, and I've had some really interesting kind of different realms of bus questions in the last month. One is that we need more bus routes downtown, and the other is we need more bus routes out west, and we need fewer downtown and less out west. And so obviously, I guess what the question is how do we gauge where our bus routes should go? Because we can't judge ridership on a route that doesn't exist.
That's a very good question. And as we've been going through consultant interviews, we will be coming back to council to discuss frequency of service or coverage of service. As in, do we want a big, broad coverage that slows down how fast people move throughout the city? Or do we want fast turnarounds in the more populated areas? So these are things that will be coming up through our study, and we'll definitely be coming back to City Council to show you the different ways we can analyze and do this. As far as do I have an answer for what is the best way to do this right now, it really comes down to funding, because we could run our buses 24/7, but running an empty bus doesn't get us anywhere. So it's going to come down to we're going to build different financial models for us to look at, and then we can talk about the impacts that they will have on the downtown and the surrounding area.
I think it's the pink line that goes down to where Union Marina will be on the north end. But I'm just thinking about, as we look at the timing of routes that I have heard about, of course, too, the earlier routes would potentially get people to jobs that they otherwise couldn't have. But I don't know how to judge how many people that is. So if you learn something from the consultants about that, I would love to hear more about how, if there's a modeling that we can do as a community based on employers or, I don't know, population, age.
So a very big portion of the areas of persistence and poverty study is community input. So there will be two different phases of that as we move forward with this, and that includes evaluating our current riders that use our buses, nonprofit organizations, general businesses downtown, along with city council, and your input on that. But as this development comes online, as we've been talking about apartments for a lot tonight, and developments like that, those are things that come to us, and we're looking at how do we route there accordingly. Because there's certain areas of the city that we're getting a lot of this development that we're not in yet, and we just need to look at our current routes and how do we adjust it with what we currently have to potentially a full overhaul with what this study comes out with.
Well, and I think that does fall upon council. For instance, I remember when the new development, oh gosh, the developer. Anyway, it'll come to me after I'm done talking. But we talked about how we don't have a bus stop at every place that we might need it as we develop future development, so that those folks who live there are our workforce, and we want them to have the ability to access our public transportation, what that looks like, and how we might need to prioritize some of the new developments and their access to bus lines. So I just want to make sure we keep that front of mind. It's my job to keep it front of mind to you, but I'm excited to hear what you learned from that and look forward. When will that be resulted, available?
The overall plan should be completed within a year. So that's our overall goal, is we'll have a consultant on board, we'll have a study done, and then from there, we'll do small implementations as possible. And then if it's a big financial impact, we'll definitely be sitting in front of city council again. You guys will be with us along the entire way, because it does come down to city council and how you want me to manage this, the service that we do. But I do want to remark on that. You said future develop. We have the medical school coming downtown. We have the apartments at the north end that we're going to be looking at. Jody Johnson and I have already been discussing how are we going to manage that. Russ Deckline in the parking world and I are saying, if they're going to bring X amount of cars downtown, what ramp are they going to go on, and how are we going to utilize that to make sure they can get in and out? So these are all discussions we're having, and as we move forward, City Council will be engaged in all of it.
Thank you.
Ms. Rousseau?
Thank you. I was noticing on page 101, you were talking about how the fuel island has helped with some costs and convenience from last year. But it caught my attention because it said diesel decreased. And with the recent wild changes in gas prices, I'm just wondering how you go about planning for such wide fluctuations in gas prices for the future.
So we are very excited the fuel island's back online, and our Public Works Department does receive a decrease in cost across the board. When we go to project the numbers back in October, we do use an annual mileage and we estimate an annual average fuel. And we do that through working with the Public Works on what they believe the fuel costs will be. Yes, diesel is very expensive right now for what it was. But will it sustain all of 2027? I can't answer that question. But we're hoping we're able to manage that and it does come back to a reasonable price again.
Me too. Thank you.
Mr. Leindecker.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Question on bus ridership, and I get questions from residents on, how they don't see a lot of people riding buses at various times of the day. And how do we measure ridership? And then how do we track to our goals of what ridership is? Or do we have necessarily, is there ridership goals?
So every year we have projections we want to hit. So we have an annual projection on the KPI sheet that we're trying to strive towards. And to do that, we work with different organizations on how we can support them and what we do. One of the biggest organizations we work with is the school district on if they have closures and how we can assist with closures. But through the grant we're going to be studying, it's going to look at all of our routes. And all of our routes, we do keep tabs on how many people utilize that service. So on a given day, we'll say the blue route has 25 people a day and 75 people tomorrow. So we can see those numbers on a daily basis. And as we go through the study, we're going to model that ridership on those routes and where we pick them up and potentially drop them off at to build the new study and analysis showing you, do you want frequency or do you want overall coverage? So as far as do we have goals? Yes, we have goals we try to hit every year. At the current time, you'll notice a lot of our buses early in the morning, I'm going to say between 6:30 and 8 a.m., are pretty full. I mean, there's standing room only on certain buses. And then we do have a lag throughout the day. And when we put the RFP out, we did want to look at, do we need fixed route buses on everything? Because fixed route buses are expensive to run compared to paratransit buses. It's a different cost in fuel, a different cost in overall equipment, and yearly maintenance. So do we have the right setup? Right now, we have 13 minibuses and 17 heavy duty. Do we need to be a 50-50 split, or should it be flipped the other way and we should be a 13 heavy duty for the routes that need that extra help? So it's a very good question, and that will be reviewed over the next year.
Okay,
And
thank you.
Excuse me, I would add on page 112 at the bottom of the page, where he talks about his performance measures. For FY 2024, our actual number was 385,464. For FY 2025, our actual number was 393,349, so about 10,000 more than the previous year. We're projecting for the current year that will hit about 403,000, which would be about 20,000 above the previous year. So those are our targets now, and we appear to be increasing every year.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, on the Port of Dubuque lot, or ramp, I should say, so that's a ramp that's attached to the Diamond Joe, correct?
That's correct.
And historically, we haven't charged for that. And I have heard out there that there was something associated with the agreement with that ramp with the Diamond Joe on not charging, or is that not?
No, that is correct. We have a development agreement with the Diamond Joe.
Okay.
Yeah, and that agreement happened before Ryan was here, but, so when they built that new casino, they agreed to pay for the ramp if we did a property tax rebate agreement with them, which we did. So they financed and paid for the ramp, and their condition was that we could not charge for people to park there. Now, anybody can park there, doesn't have to be Diamond Joe customers, but we can't charge. They also pay for all maintenance. So every year we send them a bill for several $100,000, say, because here was the debt cost and the maintenance cost, and they pay it without any issues. But as I said, anybody can park there, but the restriction is we can't charge.
Okay. And then, so maybe I misunderstood your presentation here. Are we proposing that we're going to start charging there, though? Or is that a different ramp?
He was talking about the Fifth Street, the Fifth Street surface lot, right? Is that what you're referring to?
So are you talking about the capital or the improvement packages?
Well, I saw that as well. That was another question.
So the port, you might be discussing the Port of Dubuque parking lot and not the ramp.
Okay.
So the ramp, yes, is hooked to the Diamond Joe, but across the street, across Bell Street, is the Port of Dubuque parking lot.
Okay. Got it. That clears it up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
You said you had another question?
Yes.
No, that was-
That cleared it all up.
Yep,
Okay, cool.
yep.
Mr. Spring.
Thank you. Ryan, I know what I've been hearing. I'm going to be really looking forward to participating and directing people to talk about this equitable route expansion and service thing. Because I'm hearing a lot second shift. They would love to have second shift. And I was told a number of years ago, it's kind of like complicated because you need to have so many vehicles sitting on the side that can't be driven, can you explain like what you all need to have bus routes just running? Like you've got to have so many drivers, you have to have so many dispatchers, you have to have so many, basically you need a whole second set of people operating from my understanding.
So anytime that our Joule buses are operating, we have to have a dispatch person in the office, we have to have a service technician in the shop, and then we have to have comparable fixed route and paratransit service at the same time. So if we're offering fixed route, I have to offer paratransit at the same time. So when we did, I believe it was the Sutton Pool Shuttle, we had to have a full staff for that bus to run to manage that. But second shift is something that we're definitely looking at. Hours of service is a big part of this study as we move forward.
Because you've got so many of your drivers are kind of part-time because of the flexibility. That would then push them probably into full-time, and we would be having different discussions. So there would be possibly expansion of your budget. Will this give us an idea of cost of that if we wanted to go a second shift, or because it talks about facility and equipment needs. So I'm hoping that there's pricing in there so we at least have ideas what that could cost us.
So this is a fantastic question. So as we look at the hours of service, and if we do increase to cover all of second shift, I have plenty of equipment. So we're covered on that, and technology, we're fine on that. It would be the man hours to man the buses and the dispatch and the transit service worker that we'd have to staff. And compared to our current budget to that, we would definitely be seeing an increase. And that is where the RFP we put out, financial modeling, will be a big part of that, showing that if we do start running from 4:30 a.m. till midnight every day, this is what the financial impact would be. And I'll be back at City Council to discuss that, if that's something we want to approve and look at.
And then I guess the last question was, you mentioned the grant was that for the 2 new buses, they're hybrid buses?
So that grant is for 2 electric buses, and we can also look at 2 hybrid buses, would be electric and diesel motors. So we're looking at both options at the current time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Resnick.
Thank you. A couple things. First of all, so, Mr. Nucky, parking ramps get a bad name because sometimes they deserve it, right? They're big and ugly, utilitarian, but we try to do the best we can to make sure they're safe, they're pleasant to use. Times change. I mentioned about how a lot of people aren't using as much, parking spaces is because they're working from home. But I want to ask you, do we have an extra unneeded ramp that isn't worth the maintenance cost and we should just take it down? That's what I've heard from some residents, that maybe we don't need all this parking. We've built it up. Our parking rate is, the number, percentage is whatever that resident says it is. Just say that it's low. And they said that we could do better than having a parking building there. Now, my opinion is there's only one thing worse than too much parking, and that's not enough parking, right? So we do have to be careful. But just, if you wouldn't mind, with all the data that you've collected, how are we doing with the parking ramps as far as needed or unneeded?
I don't believe at the current time we should be taking any parking ramps down. With the future development coming downtown, I'm actually looking at the ramps, making sure I'll have enough space in certain areas. So the current time, parking ramps, I would be letting alone. We have looked at some parking lots too. The 5th and Main lot is going away. So we have to displace those vehicles into ramps to accommodate that. And then we have the medical school coming downtown. We have a museum coming downtown. So at the current time, our ramps are starting to fill back up, especially with the changes in the downtown. With the amount of equipment, we're able to see the different levels of our ramps. Our intermodal ramp, we had 2 or 3 times during, as a block party where we were at capacity in that ramp, and people were starting to use other locations around to park in. So in my opinion, I would say our ramps currently are at a perfect time to be repairing them, because I think future state will have pretty full ramps in the next 3 to 5 years.
All right, thank you. And then I would love to hear from Mr. Arwala, please. He is the director of Do Ride, and I see that there's a $30,000 amount of money, and I don't know how you could possibly do all of what you do for $30,000, so you're going to have to convince me that that's the right number. I love your motto, getting seniors where they want to go, and your ridership is over 10,000 now. If you wouldn't mind talking about Do Ride and about whether or not you need more volunteers to drive others, and how that program works. Is the program like 8 years old, or is it more than that now?
No, it's since 2008 now. So
that's more than 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
17.
Time flies.
You were close though. Well, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for the
If you
invitation
wouldn't
to
mind
come out.
talking about Do Ride a bit, please.
Yeah, Greg Orwell, I'm Executive Director of Do Ride. Been doing that since 2012. And just to touch first on the funding, the $30,000, since the first day we proposed this, or the founder proposed it, City Council the first year underwrote the entire cost of getting it started for the first year, which is incredibly visionary. And in that conversation was, we'll continue to support this, but you're going to have to feed yourself as well. So we've always looked at that city funding as an important piece of the funding puzzle, and it represents every year a little bit less percentage of the total than it did the year prior, because we're growing, not only in ridership but also in additional fundraising and grants and those sorts of things. So it represents about 15% of our operating budget. The point I would make is that we've always been focused on being affordable for everybody. And right at the current time, we charge $7 per ride each way, so $14 round trip. But 8 years ago, we did a really intense study that we called the Ready, Fire, Aim study, in that we ran across somebody that ended up in the hospital because they couldn't afford, which was at the time our $5 ride fee, to get their cumulative levels checked at the clinic, because they didn't have $5. So really, almost that moment, we said, we've got to do something. So we now have an income support program. Corey Burbach actually was the chair of our board when we designed this. And we said, anybody that gets any kind of public assistance whatsoever, or frankly, anybody that just declares themselves as being really tight on money, are automatically included in that income support program, which at the current time represents about 23% of our members are in that program. It's 83 members right now qualify. And that allows, instead of $7 per ride, $4 per ride on a discount, and any medical ride whatsoever is absolutely free. And each year that program is growing, but which is great. But also the cost to subsidize that is growing as well. Last year we provided in that program, a total of 3,888 rides were provided in that program, either free or discount. And of that, 2,073 were free medical rides that cost opportunity costs of almost $15,000. That is something that we're looking at with a certain amount of trepidation, in that we don't want to have to limit either the enrollment or the number of rides anybody can take. But we've got to continue to find extra funding to help subsidize that. But otherwise, all funding together, our goal has always been to charge less than 40% of the overall cost would be paid by members through the variety of fees. We're actually at 23%, which is the smallest percentage of the whole that we've ever asked the riders to pay. The last point, we always need one more volunteer. But at the same time, every day, we always find that one more volunteer we need. Since we started, we have provided 159,000 rides, and we have told people, I'm sorry, we don't have a driver for you, exactly never. And that's something we're really committed to.
And if I remember from past, your volunteers are entitled to be reimbursed, and how many people actually ask for that reimbursement payment for their volunteer, for their gas and oil, not just their time?
None.
None.
Yeah.
So dedicated volunteers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so we're always looking for dedicated volunteers. But it's a fantastic program. Thank you for doing so much and looking out for our residents. I'd love to hear, those changes you made for folks and really listening to them and really helping out when it's very important. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the continued support.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Appreciate it. And you are all qualified to be volunteers.
Thank you for that reminder, Greg.
I'm going to assume you have a reliable vehicle, a license, and insurance on your vehicle. That's all it takes. And a desire to help, which obviously you're here after 10 o'clock, so it's not for the money. Thank you for what you folks do, too. What a tremendous dedication it takes to serve like you do. So thank you.
That's kind of you, Greg. Thanks for saying that. Mr. Spring.
I got one more question for Ryan about the new license plate reader system, because I have driven by some of the ramps and I see the sign that says, you've got so many available spaces. So are you going to be, when that's all done, maybe in like a year, giving us a presentation as to be like, this is what we've come up with the data so far? Because I think it'd be really interesting to find out like which ramps are getting used and not getting used.
Yes, I will be. I'll be coming to City Council. I'm hoping every 6 months to do a presentation of where parking is at and the occupancy levels in the ramps. That will help with Mr. Resnick's, do we have too many ramps? And going through this study, we'll be able to show us that these are the ramps that are full, this is the time of day that they're full, and this is how we can utilize them the best way. So yes, I'll be coming to council coming up now that we have reliable data and real-time data.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any others? Mr. Yeah. That's fine.
Sorry, going back
That's
to
okay.
the Port of Dubuque ramp. So maintenance, we mentioned maintenance was covered by the Diamond Joe, but in the budget here on page 26, it shows that there's major maintenance for the ramp.
Mm-hmm.
Is that?
That's just the funding that we received from the Diamond Joe, and then that's just approval for me to reinvest that back into the ramp as needed.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I need clarification, and it's probably because it's late. But the study we keep talking about, what study is this again? The one that we're doing right now? Is this the mobility and management study? Is the same thing we've been doing for a while?
So we have two studies going on right now. We have the Smart Parking Mobility Management Plan, which deals with the parking ramps on street and the lots. And then we have the new FTA grant for the Jewel, which is the Area of Persistent Poverty grant.
And is it that one then that we're going to use to be able to describe what kind of what Ms. Wethel was asking about with the routes and what would be most efficient?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I've been unclear on that, and I'm glad I'm clear now. So thank you very much. It is interesting when you go to these National League of Cities conferences and stuff like that. Everybody's talking about like micro transit is kind of the term that everybody uses. So it's this idea of really kind of what Do Ride does, but the city's doing that in a large way. And so it's the stuff that you said. How do you get people there faster, more on demand kind of thing? So. And the easiest way to say it would be like an Uber or Lyft sort of, model run by cities essentially, but with probably larger vehicles, I'm guessing in most places, like the smaller buses that we have.
Yes.
Yeah.
So our paratransit service right now is literally an on-demand service. People call, set up appointments, we pick them up at their door threshold, we take them to the next destination threshold, and that's where they get dropped off. Yeah. So as far as the on-demand service, we currently do that today in our minibus world. Where people can apply to get on it, and if you're over 65, you're able to ride it, or if you have a disability that qualifies you.
Yeah. So what's the timeline on this, the study that we're doing?
We're hoping to have a consultant on board over the next month and a half, and then the study should take about a year. So I'm hoping by June of next year, we'll be coming back to council with a final plan for it. But as we start this study, we'll be coming to council saying, this is what we do today, this is the different analytical models that we can build, and we're going to be looking for council to say, okay, we want to look at coverage or frequency, or, oh my gosh, the financial cost is going to be too much, we need to hone it down a little bit.
Yeah, okay, great. That answers most of my questions there. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to find out what we find out on that. I'm really excited about this one because if we could change things to make it really, fit right for us in Dubuque and fit right for your department, that'd be great. Okay, well, I think that's everything that I have here. I'm not hearing anything to be held back from this particular discussion. Okay. Ryan, thank you very much. Thanks to the rest of the team, too, for sticking it out with us tonight. We appreciate that and appreciate the work that you do all year long.
Thank you very much for what you guys do.
Thank you. All right, so we are at the standing action item that we have, which is just budget items identified for separate discussion. I'm keeping track of them on my phone. So I've got projection calculations was the question that's still kind of out there, and we're gathering some information. I know the city manager is starting to send us some emails, talks a little bit about some of these things. But then we also have the reserves policy for fiscal year 27 amount, so that's still in there. Is there any discussion we would like to have about either of those right now, or are we good waiting until we go through a few more budget hearings? I think we're good waiting. Okay. All right. Well, with that then, there would be no further business on this agenda, so we will be back here on Monday for our next budget hearings. Have a good weekend, everybody.